Thank you. If we can make a start, please. Right, item 1, announcements by the Mayor and Chief Executive. So I'd like to open the meeting by paying tribute to Liz Cusack, or many of us would know her as Liz Twitchett, who sadly passed away on the 2nd of September after a brief illness. Liz made a significant impact during her 42-year career in local government, 31 of those years working for Kirklees Council's highways. She was well regarded as an outstanding professional among her highways colleagues and within the wider highways industry. Many of us in this chamber will have worked with her over the years. We will remember her knowledge, dedication, and how she always approached a member's inquiry with a positive attitude. She always tried to help if she could. Liz served the public of Kirklees and those of us who represent them in an exemplary way. She will leave a great legacy and will be deeply missed by all who had the pleasure of working with her. Our thoughts and condolences go to her family, friends and colleagues. And books of condolence are available in both Civic Centre 1 and 3 ground floor reception areas should anybody wish to sign them. Green Flag Awards. So Kirklees Parks and Green Spaces have once again been recognised amongst the country's best parks, retaining their Green Flag Awards, an international quality mark for parks and green spaces. The Green Flag has been awarded to Beaumont Park, Greenhead Park, Castle Hill, Crowness Park and Wilton Park. Oakwell Hall and Country Park also achieved Green Flag status for its 21st year in a row. The Canal and River Trust received a Green Flag for Huddersfield Narrow Canal. Upper Hopton Community Association were awarded a Community Green Flag for Upper Hopton Recreation Ground. And East Bailey received a Community Green Flag for the whole village. This accolade is testament to the continued hard work and dedication by volunteers, Friends of Group and Parks and Open Spaces team. Congratulations to everyone. Are there any apologies for absence? Councillor Circle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apology from Councillor Afaq Butt. Some members are coming late. Councillor Nosheen Dodd and Councillor Hannah McCarthy. They will be here soon.
Councillor Richard Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have an apology, but Tony McGrath is running late. He should be with us shortly. Thank you.
Councillor Masood Ahmed.
Apologies from Councillor Adam Zaman.
Thank you. And Councillor Munro.
Good evening, Mayor. I've got apologies from Councillor Kath Pinnock, and who is not attending, and Councillor Andrew Pinnock, who will be late.
Sorry. Okay. Are there any other apologies for absence? No. Thank you. Item 3 then, minutes of previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Council held on 16th of July 2025 be approved as a correct record. Is that seconded? Thank you. Can we vote by a show of hands, please? I think that's carried, yes. Thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that need to be declared? At this time, no. Okay. Can I remind members, if you need to declare an interest during the meeting, you need to submit the form to the clerk. Okay. And can we also please ensure, said she, double checking, that mobile phones are on silent, please. Thank you. Petitions from members of the council, item 5. Do we not have, we don't have any?
It's a public one.
Yeah. So there's no petitions from members of the council. Item 6, deputations and petitions from members of the public. We've no deputations, but I believe we have a public petition.
Madam Mayor, could I rise on a point of order, please? I'm not sure if it's on the deputations or but it will be relating to public questions.
Which is the next item, yeah.
Next item. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, so if you'd like to come forward, please, for the deputation. Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome to the meeting. Can you please introduce yourselves, advise the council of the subject matter of your petition, what it requests, and pass it to the clerk. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Darren Eastwood. This petition is to urge Kirklees Council to develop the former gasworks site for the Huddersfield Giants Stadium project. I am here to present a petition signed by over 4,600 residents calling on Kirklees Council to support the redevelopment of the former Huddersfield gasworks site. This site has stood unused for too long. Residents and fans believe this site offers a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver a modern stadium and community facilities that will create well-paid jobs, incorporate healthcare and learning facilities to benefit the whole of Kirklees, as well as supporting local businesses, and of course, help celebrate Huddersfield's proud sporting heritage as the birthplace of rugby league. On behalf of all those who have signed, I formally request that this petition is referred for a full council debate at a future meeting so that its merits can be fully considered. Thank you.
In accordance with the Council Procedure Rule 9.3, I direct that the subject matter of the petition be referred to the appropriate service director for investigation. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Thank you. Right, item 7. Councillor Bold.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to propose that in accordance with Council 47, brackets 1, the Council does suspend standing order, in particular Standing Order 11, which deals with public questions. We are probably all aware, to give some context to colleagues, that there is an issue in Cleckheaton which causes great concern to residents. They've emailed a lot of us. Some of us have been to their meeting at St Luke's Church. They were told that they couldn't ask a question at the meeting today. And the procedure rule for that, Madam Mayor, was 11.3c. 11.3 deals with questions which will not be answered. My contention today, Madam Mayor, is answering a question is one thing. These residents have been stopped from asking a question, which is a totally separate matter. And I believe it's part of the council procedure anyway that any time the leader, cabinet member or other can decline to answer a question, can propose to give a written answer or delegate it to somebody else. So I think that the refusal to say you can't ask a question because the standing order says it won't be answered is incorrect in this case. And in any case, if we suspend standing orders, that doesn't apply. This is a very serious matter that the residents have put some time in. They've got data on the pollution, etc. And I would propose, Madam Mayor, that in accordance with council procedure rules, we do suspend standing orders to allow this question to be put.
Is there a seconder to that?
That's seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I will refer to the legal advice then. Chief Executive or Sam?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The process for public questions is set out in the Constitution and it's prior to this meeting. The questions have been considered and have been ruled out of order by the Chief Executive. It is not appropriate to be able to vote on that today.
Of the council having a standing order that allows us to suspend standing orders if we can't vote. It's been proposed and seconded And in a democratic process, it should be put to the vote.
The rules are set out quite clearly in the Constitution. If we want to change that process, then there is a process for how we revise the Constitution. And there's a Constitution working group that's meeting next week where we can start to look at this. But in relation to the motion tonight, the decision that has been made has been in accordance with the Constitution and the rules. It wouldn't be lawful to change that this evening.
I've given the reference to the council procedure rule, as we're required to do. The response is, it's in the Constitution. So I hope colleagues will agree with me that we should be referred to the part of the Constitution and that can be examined. And I'm sure, obviously, colleagues are aware that where decisions are made, which can be challenged, as we had in the case of the Chidswell planning, if residents wish, they can seek a judicial review of a decision.
So can we have an answer first of all as to the point that has been made about questions will not be answered as part of the Constitution, and then can we have an answer about the request to suspend standing orders?
The determination of the question happens prior to the meeting, and that has already occurred. The process to enable that happen is under section 11(1)(d) of the Constitution, where it says all public questions must be submitted at least 3 clear working days, and it also sets out at 11(3) a number of different criteria about when they will not be answered, and those are the relevant sections of the Constitution. There may be others, but that we would need to take an adjournment for me to look at that.
In the respect is, for clarity, if the question has been misunderstood. The questions from the public have been submitted at least 3 clear days because they were ruled out of order. How can you rule something out of order if you haven't received it in advance? They submitted it in accordance with this Constitution. So 11(1)(d), where it says public questions submitted 3 clear days, I would contend that they have been submitted. We then go on to the one which ruled it out. That comes under, as I say, question 3, questions which will not be answered. And again, I stress, it is perfectly reasonable for a cabinet member to say, I decline to answer, I will give you a written answer, or I'll delegate it. So on the first point, Madam Mayor, unless somebody can tell me otherwise, we have had 3 clear days' notice and it's been considered, because that was when I heard before Sunday that it had been ruled out of order. And this, the second point is a question will not be answered. I'm not asking for an answer, I'm making that clear. I'm wanting a question to be put at the meeting, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so the legal advice is that they've been ruled out of order and therefore they cannot be put to the meeting. Councillor Andrew Pinnock, did you have a point of order? Or?
Madam Mayor, because I ought to point out that I think it's section 18 because it was a question by councillors, not the public. And in any case, why, if you're suspending standing orders, can't you then go on and say something? I definitely agree with Councillor Bolt in that respect. But for once. But I have a feeling, having read the wording, and I may have misremembered it here, because this is a planning matter, it is not about a planning application, it's about the implementation of a planning application. So it's got past the stage of lobbying and so on in relation to planning applications. It's about the implementation of it, and I do believe the procedure rule does actually talk about not implementation, but about planning applications rather than the implementation thereof. So I will have a go at doing something about this as well.
Okay, so at section 12 of the Constitution, Councillor Pinnock, it says the exemptions as set out at CPR 11.3 also apply to this rule. So that is written questions by members as well as written questions to from the public. Okay. It has been ruled out of order, and therefore the advice that I have been given is that they cannot be put. All right? Okay. Yes, Councillor Lawson.
Thanks for your indulgence, Madam Mayor. I do wish to add that in the wording in the rules is that key phrase, for determination, when we're talking about planning matters. For determination. This is no longer for determination. It has been determined. So what we're talking about now is the implementation side. So I hear what you're saying, but I do still think that there is an inadequate wording around this particular rule that means that we are being restricted in what we can ask.
So if you look at sorry, Councillor Armour, I'm sorry. I thought I'd pressed it. My apologies. CPR 11, okay, under questions which will not be answered, 3C, questions concerning the merit of applications or other matters relating to planning, licensing and other administrative or regulatory matters. And I believe that is the paragraph that does apply. All right. Councillor, I think we need to move on after you, Councillor March.
Questions, it says, this is actually 12, which refers to members' questions. Section 8, and it's the same. Questions about the merit of applications or other matters for determination. So we've removed the word determination from the Constitution.
So let's be clear. I'm on item 11 in the current council procedure rules that are on the website, dated May 2025. And at the bottom of that page 14 of 48, it states, questions concerning the merits of applications or other matters relating to planning, licensing and other administrative or regulatory matters, which will not be answered. So what has been suggested is that there is further discussion on these paragraphs in the Constitution Working Group. And I would suggest that the matter is taken there. Okay? All right. So we'll move to item 8. West Yorkshire Combined Authority minutes. To receive for information the minutes of West Yorkshire Combined Authority. The minutes are here for noting. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes, please? Oh gosh. Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies. There's an item here in the AGM minutes, which was IP 5, so it's section C on page 30 in our electronic packs. And that talks about the investment priority 5, IP 5, delivering sustainable, integrated, inclusive and affordable transport. Now, in Parliament last week, there was an amendment made to the transport bill, which attempted to, and it was a cross-party amendment, I'll add, which attempted to have bus passes for disabled travellers and disabled workers to be available for use before 9:30 a.m. Now, this is something that I've been trying to campaign on for quite some time now, a number of years, after a resident approached me who had epilepsy. They're not allowed to drive. They have no choice other than to either take public transport or taxis. They worked in a childcare centre, a childcare setting, and had morning shifts at 6 a.m. She was being punished for doing a job that she loved, that she felt called to do. It was a vocation. Now, I think there is something for this chamber to comment on, and the fact that the amendment was voted down by the government. So I'd like to have a clear view of how we stand as a chamber, how we stand as a council on that issue. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pattison.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson, for your question. I do think that is something that has been in West Yorkshire, combined authority circles, should I say. It's not been to a meeting, alongside other potential relief for care leavers, for instance. Well, that's slightly different, but that's your bus passes for care leavers, for instance, is also being considered. It's still, I mean, I'm not sure to what extent the anything passed in government or by the government would actually affect what under bus franchising West Yorkshire Combined Authority decisions they can make in terms of bus passes, etc. But certainly I'm happy to raise that.
Are there any other... Councillor Scott, did you indicate? Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's merely a comment on these minutes, and I think that Wicker, whilst we appreciate it being highlighted and decisions that are directly shaping the transport in the skills and regeneration in Kirklees, but what I am urging us to take from this is that we demand regular updates, not just given in minutes. I said last time in this chamber that not every group or member or individual sits on Wicker, on their boards or on their committees. So we want regular bulletins and updates coming to this council, and if not, bring it to Cabinet, and if not, as Cabinet members, you can have private briefings with groups or set up a room pre-council for us to listen to what's actually going on. Because giving us minutes at the last minute is actually, you've taken the decision and there you go.
Councillor Pattison.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Yes, I think I agree with you that the just an item of one or two potentially set of minutes on the council agenda in terms of being an update for all members, let alone the Cabinet, isn't sufficient. And I have been considering how that could be improved. Thank you.
Are there any other comments on this item? Okay, thank you. We move to item 9 then, Corporate Governance and Audit Committee Annual Report. I'll speak slowly, okay. This is the Corporate Governance and Audit Annual Report 24-25, reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. Councillor Taylor to move. Put his microphone on, and then when he comes in, it doesn't.
I can't find him. And he's been working on that speech all day. Move on. Yeah.
All right, okay, so we will wait for Councillor Taylor to come back. So we will move to item 10 then and come back to item 9. Okay. Oh, is he? Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Taylor. So we're ready now. Are you ready for your speech, yes, Councillor Taylor? So this Corporate Governance and Audit Annual Report, take 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies. As a Chair of Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, I'm pleased to be able to present the annual report for 2024-25 municipal year. This report provides an overview of the committee's work in ensuring good governance, robust internal controls and sound financial management within Kirklees Council. Throughout the year, the committee has been involved in a number of key areas as detailed in the report. These have included overseeing the production of the annual governance statement, approving the council's accounts for the prior year, monitoring the work of internal and external audit, and reviewing key audit reports, questioning areas of weakness and ensuring robust recovery plans are viable, reviewing the Council's constitution and financial procedure rules. We've also focused on ensuring robust risk management, scrutiny of Treasury management, and careful consideration of both those internal and external audit findings. The committee takes its role seriously in providing independent challenge and oversight, and in seeking assurance on the effectiveness of the Council's governance arrangements. As noted in the report, the Council continues to face financial challenges, including a forecast budget gap in 2026-27. The committee will continue to monitor this position alongside our internal and external audit colleagues, focusing on budgetary processes and forecasting. Since the start of the new municipal year, we have appointed 2 new independent members, Nick Booth and Andy North, to the committee, and they are already adding value, bringing different perspectives, and I look forward to being able to help them carry out these duties in the coming year. This year we will also be supporting officers in undertaking the community governance review of our town and parish councils, and hope the members across the chamber will also engage in this review. To finish, Madam Mayor, I would like to record my thanks to members of the committee and the officers who support it for their contributions during the year. We make a good team, and it has been a pleasure working with all of them. As it says, this report is presented for noting and debate. I welcome any questions or comments that members may have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Homewood, I believe you to second this.
Yeah, seconded, Madam Mayor, reserve the right.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, John, for what you just said. I would like to clarify something that was said some time ago when I come to the Governance Committee about corporate, to talk about ethical procurement, because it was stated by the now leader that the Cabinet was part of the corporate governance and they were all part of the executive. Can you clarify for the people out there what corporate governance is, what Cabinet is and their role, because they're not part of the executive?
Councillor Taylor, do you want to answer individually or do you want all the points? All the points, yeah. Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Taylor, for the work you've done this year. It's noted and it's made a good report, good reading. Thank you. I would ask about how we address our best value duty and how we note that we are under that duty to provide best value for our residents, and how do we display that? If I've missed it in one of the audits, I do apologise, but I think it's important, especially at this time when we're talking about the next items, about budgets and what have you, that we do nail that best value duty and we display it, and we're seen to display it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other points, questions on this item? No, Councillor Taylor.
Madam.
Sorry, Councillor Homewood had a right of reply. No, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for your questions. I'll take them in order. So, Councillor Scott, Cathy. The Corporate Governance and Audit Committee is not part of the executive. Our role is to provide assurance. So our role is not to make decisions. It is to look at the processes and make sure those processes, as set out in our procedure rules, in our constitution, and in line with SIPFA requirements from an audit perspective, it's our role to assure ourselves that that is undertaken correctly. And we do have a role to question and challenge. And, you know, and again, I'll just echo what I said earlier, of my colleagues that have supported in terms of making those challenges and questions, and we will continue to do that. That is our role, We're not part of the executive is completely separate. Can't really comment on what the leader said or anything, because I'm not sure I was even there when it was said. But that's the role of corporate governance and audit. We're an assurance. We're here to give you as a council, yourselves, that assurance that we've spent the time perhaps asking those difficult questions and occasionally asking officers to come back, sometimes several times, to give ourselves the satisfaction that things are being done in accordance, and where errors are found, not to make, hold people guilty about it, but to make sure that if errors are found, we rectify them and we learn from those. John, in terms of your second question, the value duty, that is set out in the external auditors' reports, but I'll take and reflect on your comments about how do we make that a bit more visible, because it is a bit dense to read, not dense as in stupid, a bit dense to read, and I'm sure there must be a way we can perhaps look at that and see how we can do that more effectively, and I'll take that to my committee members at our meeting next week and perhaps see where we take it from there, but thank you for that comment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Let me just double check. I've got it down to vote. Yes?
No, it's for noting.
Is it for noting? Yeah. Okay, so it's for noting, so we won't go to the consoles. Sorry. I definitely need a cup of coffee. Right, okay. Item 10 then, Council Budget Strategy. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today's report provides an update to Council on the medium-term financial strategy, otherwise known as the MTFS. As you would expect, it's a lengthy document, so I'll simply pick out some of the headlines. My colleague has already pointed out that we face a budget gap next year of about £18 million, driven by rising demand and cost pressures, particularly in adult children's social care. The gap will require, where possible, reductions in budget pressures, identification of new service proposals, potential service redesign or efficiency measures. Whilst 18 million might seem a lot, and it is challenging, it's not as big as figures we've seen over previous years due to the poor levels of funding of local government. Quarter one monitoring, we have predicted a forecast overspend of 25-26 is 5.9 million, the lowest quarter on projection since COVID. Whilst no one wants to see an overspend, it's the norm that quarter one predicts an overspend, and I'm sure that we'll see this figure fall before the year end with the aim of delivering a balanced budget. The MTF assumes continued demand growth and inflationary pressures. The Fair Funding Review 2.0, released for consultation to June 2025, with the government response expected October 2025. The Provisional Local Government Financial Settlement expected late November 2025. The early indications that the Fair Funding Review and the Council Tax Equalisation Scheme will see an increase in our budget next year. Quite by how much I'm not sure of yet, but the mood music from government is that they finally recognise the importance of local government and the vital services it provides. And they are looking in these tough times to find extra funding to help with deprivation and the inequalities across the country. As we know, the Prime Minister's had a bad few days, and this resulted in changes to his team, including DLUC. We are confident the changes to local government funding proposed by the excellent work that Jim McMahon did will stay in place, which gives us some confidence in our assumptions for the next 3 years. However, I am somewhat disappointed the Chancellor has chosen to have the budget on the 26th of November, as this late date will likely mean that officers will have a large amount of work to do in the run-up to the Christmas break in getting a draft budget pulled together. It will be demanding on their time. Strategic priorities: getting the basics right, producing a balanced budget and modern organisation, supporting vulnerable residents, especially in social care, investing in people and communities, that's safer, greener, healthier Kirklees, driving economic growth through regional and national partnerships. The capital plan is still under review to ensure alignment with updated funding assumptions. It has taken a bit longer than we anticipated, but it is nearing completions. But we do see expected in approaching £400 million of the General Fund capital funded by government, West Yorkshire Combined Authority grants as well as the council itself. So next step, options to identify and bring forward new savings proposals for a regional budget to Cabinet in December 25. I said that might be a bit challenging with the late budget. Final budget to be approved in February 2026 following consultation, and continue participation in the Leeds City Regional Business Rates Pool under delegated authority. Madam Mayor, I move this item and the recommendation set out on page 57 of today's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Pattison?
Madam Mayor, I'll second it and reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this item, please? Councillor Darwin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you the question with regards to the highway problem that we have in Dewsbury South. If I can't go ahead with it, then please let me know now. Because it's quite severe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so this is on the budget strategy.
I'm aware, but I thought...
Is your question in relation to the strategy in which the budget will be set, or do you wish to bring it up under the road safety key discussion item?
Road safety key discussion item.
Yeah. I think so, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. Councillor David Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's important to realise, of course, that this is not a budget. It's a collection of forecasts and assumptions, so I keep my comments to that. I have every confidence in the financial officers that prepared these assumptions and forecasts. I do think it's been done very prudently and that provision has been made in there for as much as we can foresee, particularly as regards the pay awards and inflation and the expectation of any additional money that we might get from the Fair Funding Review. I do have a couple of questions though. And the first is something which I simply didn't understand what it referred to, so I thought, well, you might as well ask, because I don't like passing anything which I don't know what it's on about. And this is in Appendix F, it's page 105, and it talks about the VAT partial exemption risk. I have to admit, I don't know what that's about. I don't know if anybody else does, but we could do with an explanation, really, as to what that line is. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was in paragraph 2.67. And in here it says that there is going to be provision in the budget for a 3% uplift in the 26-27 levy to WICA. And this is to help with the bus franchising process. I think a lot of people were under the impression that the point of this bus franchising, the bus franchising, was that that it wasn't going to cost any more than it's already costing. And yet we're asked for an extra uplift in what we're going to be paying to WICA to pay for the preparations for this. So could I ask, please, that the leader will go back to WICA and try and resist this extra money grab by WICA of the extra 3%. You never know; she might get some colleagues from the other councils who, again, are unhappy about having to pay more in for a process which the Mayor says should cost less. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you to the team who produced the document. I'll make the first comment, which is that we note and appreciate the improvements that have happened over the last year, but it still leaves us with quite the hill to climb. I'm going to restrict myself to commenting on the 4 key council priorities that Councillor Turner just mentioned that begin at the bottom of page 60 in the digital pack. That's getting the basics right, protecting the vulnerable, thriving people and communities and local economic growth. There are some obvious mismatches. We all have examples of this in our own wards and across the borough. So what's written on here on paper and our experience over the last few years don't match. Getting the basics right runs up against the buffers of bin fiascos and the scale of our highways issues. Local economic growth is debatable, with vast amounts borrowed for fairly parochial gains. And as we hear recently, grants have been missed, not for the first time, and local businesses don't seem to have the voice that they should when plans are made. Protecting the vulnerable is admittedly financially very hard, with the demand increasing across the board, especially in areas like SEND and adult social care. We can still make improvements though, and order our priorities and deficiencies, and make carrying out the hard lobbying that makes it difficult for the government to say no. We should, as a council, we should recognise that, parties aside, local government and central government are twin sides of the same scale. We should be fighting for what our residents need. The one that irritates at the moment, though, the one that really gets under my skin, is the line about thriving communities. And here's a good example. A little while ago, Cleckheaton ward members were invited to a meeting in which we were told that, in conjunction with Manchester University, Kirklees had carried out a study of isolation amongst the elderly in the borough. Some areas had been evidenced as being more at risk of isolation than others, and one of those was Cleckheaton. The solution? Public places to meet and socialise. You could have heard a pin drop when we heard that. After the mothballing of the town hall, the scattering of the University of Third Age and its subsequent reduction in size, to hear that council had this evidence and proceeded to withdraw such valuable resource beggared belief. We should not be surprised that people are angry about unnecessary bus lanes, for example in Cleckheaton, sites with asbestos that are seemingly not addressed to full extent, care centres and sports centres closing, heritage sites being at risk, and you're saying one thing but doing another or nothing at all sometimes. You can only get away with that for so long, and I'd be glad to hear your comments on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. Members will recall that the budget for this year was a deal put together by Conservatives and Labour to pass their amendment. Part of that amendment was, or part of that deal, the price of that deal, if you like, was Christmas bin collections. So my question is, and it's a pity it's not covered in here, but my question relates to the whole budget strategy. When the council sets its budget and identifies an action that's going to take place.
Just a minute, Councillor Greaves. Can we ensure that all electronic devices are set to silent, please? So that it doesn't interrupt anybody who's speaking. Thank you. Councillor Green.
Thanks, yeah. So the price of that deal was Christmas bin collections. But the Christmas bin collection has been removed by Cabinet. And I find it strange that Cabinet has the power to do that, where Council has set its budget. And it does kind of make you wonder what the purpose of setting the budget is and asking for our budget amendments, if at a whim, at any point, Cabinet can overturn it. So are any of the documents we get of any purpose? Can it all just be changed mid-year?
Councillor Darji.
Sorry, it's a mistake.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Turner for giving us an overview of that, the budget gap and savings. It's a big figure, but if we look at how that might have accrued over many years, I think there are operating efficiencies and deliveries that could contribute to it, particularly if I look in my own ward of Murfield. 11 years ago, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, there were planning applications going through this council where members on the planning committee, and looking round, thanks to Councillor Pinnock for abstaining on the vote. No thanks to Councillors Pattison, Sokol, Scott and Steve Hall for voting in favour of Murfield 25. They may have been swayed because the developer said that there were going to be 900 manufacturing jobs there. I would challenge anybody to come on Murfield 25 and you probably find trouble getting 100 jobs in those warehouses now. None of them are manufacturing. In that, again, operating efficiencies and delivery, there were planning agreements. As it says in the Huddersfield Examiner, 11th of December 2014, the developers will give 1.45 million to Kirklees to carry out highway improvements and other works. We are told that £500,000 was given back to Park Crescent, who are based in the British Virgin Islands, because they said the development wouldn't be economic if they had to pay their contribution. A contribution, Madam Mayor, that the Conservatives, when we were in administration, put in as a supplementary planning document through the Kirklees Strategic Economic Zone. If this council, over those years, and I'm trying to struggle to think who was in power in 2014, if they could afford to give £500,000 back to a developer, then those are kind of things where we look at where this £18 million comes from. We look at other things. We've heard before about the inefficiency in the Cleckheaton Sports Centre, £60,000 at least. That was £60,000 operating loss in the cafe. How much did it cost to put the equipment in and get it up and running? And we then move. I hope lessons have been learned with the Ramsden bar downstairs, because, Madam Mayor, some people would say, if a council can't run a cafe, could it be let loose in a brewing establishment? The George Hotel, the council has never seen a business plan. The costs go up. The benefits, Madam Mayor, we have yet to see. It's never been publicly presented. Again, referring to the situation with Murfield 25, Lindley Moor for colleagues over there, those were designated as enterprise zones to bring people into the area, so they were given rate-free periods. The first tenant on Murfield 25 was not a new business coming to the area. They moved one business out of Cleckheaton and another from Clayton West into a bigger premises and consolidated, probably with fewer people, certainly fewer in the supply chain. So we're losing rates along the way there. So there's a gap there, but let's look at operating efficiencies. We'll reflect maybe later that the cost of these highways works approved in 2014. Members from North Kirklees who come down the A62 and queued all the way from the Fountain Junction down through Cooper Bridge may want to reflect that Stocksbank Road, where the temporary traffic lights were, was designated in 2013 for upgrades. The money that there was accrued from planning then will nowhere near do anything like that. We have safety measures that were promised in 2013 that have not been planned yet delivered. The cost of those was gone up. So £18 million with rising costs. We need to see a greater operating efficiency, and I would like to see delivery of promises in Murfield, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marchington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of points, really. One about the national picture and one about the local picture. Thank you, Graham, for your presentation. I think I want to pick out of that the issue about the budget, the central government's budget not taking place into November. And we know that the current government wishes to recognise the importance of local government. But what government needs to understand is that we work on different cycles. We have to have a budget set by a particular time of the year because the bills need to go out, otherwise we're going to be in default. And although the mood music has been positive, we won't know that until very late in the cycle. And so we can make certain assumptions that Councillor Hall referred to, but if those are more positive, hopefully not. But if they're not, you've got a very short time scale to revise your budget. It'd be really good if we go back to having 3-year settlements with flexibility in that, so that we can set a 3-year budget, but also recognising that inflation might be higher, lower in that period of time. It's very difficult for us to do that. The other issue is about savings and efficiency, and Councillor Turner referred to that, and Councillor Bold, well, you referred to Councillor Turner to savings, Councillor Bolt referred to efficiencies. So a number of us were at licensing and safety panel on Monday. We were looking at the increasing charges for the cost of licences for hackney carriages. And what struck me about that, as based on a freedom of information request, which I know don't go down very well, we looked at 10 years worth of data about the costs of running the service. I've not seen that level of detail about a budget for a long, long time. And what we didn't see is actually the next 3 years budget. So there was an interesting 3% rise, 2% rise, same as we've been asked for the increase in the levy for the West Yorkshire. Interesting, but we don't know whether that's enough or too much or not enough. And what did strike me is there's a number of things that have come through the council where we've had savings proposals or efficiency proposals, and we've not known in enough detail what those implications are. We look back to the parking charges, we didn't know about the detail, and then about the care homes were closed, and we struggled to get the level of financial detail that we saw on Monday. And it did strike me, going back to what Councillor Hall said 2 years ago at the budget, about having more involvement in it, and 10 years ago now probably, in the Christmas period, a whole group of us were sat in the reception room and challenged officers about savings and costs coming forward. We spent at least 2.5 days doing that. There must have been probably 12 or a dozen cross-party councillors there, and officers had to explain for us. And a number of us had a really good understanding of the nuts and bolts of the budget. So when savings were put forward, we can challenge that, and we could suggest things and all of that. And it's very difficult for us to look at where efficiencies might be made, where savings might be made, where we can be raising additional income when that information is held by a very small number of people. I think it's very difficult for cabinet members to do that when you're getting information late. We've lost that knowledge. You know, even if we brought things back, it would take time for us to develop those skills or understanding the budget. And we understand that it takes a lot of time for officers to provide that information. And we've got to be finding, well, what areas is it worth us spending a lot of time for detail, and actually where is it we've just got to, you know, because the savings that potential are so small, we just need to and make sure we look at the bigger picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions on this matter? No. Councillor Patterson, you reserve the right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will, excuse me, I will just come back on a couple of points. The West Yorkshire levy, it's an annual thing that we obviously pay a levy to West Yorkshire. It is 3% this year because of the initial costs, presumably, of bus franchising, but as the report says, future years it would return to 2%. So bus franchising, in terms of the public, certainly will give a better service once we've completed that, and it should not be a significantly increased cost at all. Councillor Lawson, in terms of the 4 priorities, I mean, yes, those are our priorities. And we will do everything we can within our power to try and meet those 100%. But of course, that's never necessarily going to be absolutely achievable. But that's our aim. That's what those are there for. I mean, of course, I mean, I always say this, but you know, we have to protect the vulnerable. That's the very essence of local government. Why else wouldn't we be doing that? Getting the basics right, as it states in this report, is about getting that budget stable so that we do know what we have to play with, if that's the right word, in terms of financing all the services that we need to do. I mean, Councillor Marchington has just talked about not having sufficient information. this is that is part of getting getting those basics right. I mean, I won't. I think it's a bit of a tangent that you went off on in terms of Cleckheaton Town Hall and isolation of Manchester University. As far as this report goes, I take your point. It would be lovely if we had sufficient facilities right across the borough to ward off isolation and loneliness of all sorts of everybody. And economic development, of course, we have to put effort into improving our economy. Because without that, without jobs, without people having sufficient income, we will not be able to provide all the rest of that we wish to in terms of having provided those basic services and even more than that as well. Councillor Greaves, the money that was put aside or earmarked for Christmas bins, that's still there. That was an amendment that came from the Conservative group. A lot of the discussion has been held about it, and the Conservative group have now agreed that isn't going to be feasible to introduce that Christmas bin collection, and therefore they have been given the opportunity, Conservative group have, to outline how they would wish to see that being spent, and they have chosen to put it into clean-ups across the council, across Kirklees, and that has already started to happen. So it hasn't disappeared into the ether, I should say. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councillor Turner. Is it a point of order or a point of personal explanation?
Yes, the second.
The second one, Councillor Hall.
Yes.
Personal explanation should only be made when it's a debate, not when this. We had it used twice today. So only when members constantly misunderstood the debate, not when we're asking questions or commenting on reports. Sorry, I can't quote the numbers.
Yeah. The first one there, Madam Mayor.
You've got a point of order. So what of the paragraph from the Constitution?
Well, it's just a matter of explanation that the leader has said that we have agreed that with this not going happening at Christmas. I mean, given any chance, we wouldn't agree with that at all. We've reluctantly accepted that it's not going to happen.
Right, that
because
isn't really
there
a
has
point
been
of order.
no agreement with the trade unions to make it happen.
It isn't a point of order. No, sorry, it isn't. Okay, all right. But you've made your point. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll start off. David, the thing about VAT is there are parts of there are some of our partners that operate parts of our organisation for us, and there can be sometimes VAT implications. So that's simply there to cover that up. I'm not going to go into detail, but there are sometimes VAT implications which we have to discuss around how they operate some of our buildings for us. So that's the reason that's in there. Councillor Lawson, I don't know exactly how much of that was a question, but going back to the lobbying, we lobby government all the time. The Chief Exec lobbies government, the leader lobbies government, I lobby government, we lobby government through the many organisations we're in, such as SIGOMA, LGA, we're constantly monitoring government. We put our response into the consultation about the fair funding, so we are constantly speaking to local government, to the local government department at DLUC to make sure we get our fair share. And as I said earlier, there are only assumptions because of the slight changes in DLUC. But as I said, the mood music is that the change that's been prepared, suggested before by Jim, will be honoured, and we anticipate being not significantly. We should be better off on the new scheme that with fair funding and council tax equalisation. We won't get as much money as we'd like, but we should see some significant increase, which will help going forward. I think Councillor Greaves' question has been answered by the leader. I have no idea what, in reference to this report, what Councillor Bolt was getting at, so I'll gloss over that because planning permission from 12 to 13 years has nothing to do with the MTF piece. So we'll leave. You're talking about something 12, 13 years ago, and there was a planning application, and we don't discuss planning applications anyway, but as I say, I'm not entirely sure where you're going there. Councillor Lawson, reference to the budget, I totally agree. I think November is incredibly tight for this organisation and every single local government organisation. It's terrible, and unfortunately it's been announced, and I don't suppose there's any amount of lobbying will get that changed, but it is I think it is a poor decision, and I said that as she's the Chancellor of the party I represent, but I think it is a poor decision, and it will put a lot of pressure on all local authorities in getting the balanced budget prepared in time for as you say, for early February. It's going to be challenging, I say. Hopefully, there may be some announcements in advance of that allow us to start doing some detailed work. Sometimes they do give us a bit of a heads up, so perhaps we may get a heads up from Rachel. So hopefully we'll see. But thank you very much.
Thank you. So this is a reference from Cabinet, and there are no recommendations for Council. Okay. Item 11 then, Mass Transit Spatial Development Framework. This is reference from Cabinet. Councillor Crook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item, as agenda item, I thought it was agenda item 10, I do apologise, agenda item 11, is seeking approval to start the consultation and development process for a joint West Yorkshire Mass Transit Spatial Development Framework Development Plan document, or mostly an acronym, so joint WYMTSDF-DPD, which incidentally is the longest concatenation of acronyms I've come across, despite having been a school governor in the past. This is ostensibly a procedural function necessary to allow the DPD development to begin, to provide a coordinated strategic approach to mass transit across our region, aligning spatial plans with transport priorities, and to approve early consultation, called Regulation 18, and draft document consultation, called Regulation 19, to proceed. And I anticipate that later approval and adoption will return to Council in due course. There is a lot of detail in this pack. It may be a little bit technical and a bit dry for those not excited by a long acronym, but in reality this is a fantastic opportunity for us, and one which I will be putting a lot of time and effort into along with officers and colleagues across West Yorkshire. It's an opportunity for us to be involved and part of the start of a coordinated process to develop a mass transit or a tram network across West Yorkshire, as well as more broadly and in the fullness of time other transport infrastructure like the Penistone line. And yes, it is named in the report, the Penistone line. Let's hear it twice. Exciting enough to offset the acronyms, and we all benefit from all investment into our region, wherever and whenever we can work together to achieve it. In this instance, and even more excitingly, we are lobbying strongly for, in fact, development of a potential mass transit or tram route or corridor extension from Leeds to Dewsbury. In many ways, regardless of the timeframe and success of this ultimate outcome, and with Tracy Brabin's backing, I am sure this will be achieved. It is the process that is of more immediate value to us here. The process of developing a potential route into an investment growth corridor, creating and supporting a viable case for the tram. It is this process that is so valuable now to all of us in Kirklees, and most directly and especially the communities we serve in and around Dewsbury. This is an opportunity for all of us to support our work to maximise investment into Kirklees, in this instance and initially into the north, and I hope that we can be unanimous in recognising the advantages this will bring for some of our most deprived communities. This process will also very much complement and support our recently adopted Kirklees transport strategy, couldn't help getting a plug in, and the common thread throughout, linking policy to use transport as a catalyst for inclusion as well as to advance prosperity, to leave no one behind and to make Kirklees and West Yorkshire a fairer as well as a more prosperous region. So I'd like to thank officers for all of their hard work and move that the recommendations of Cabinet as set out at page 107 be approved.
Is that seconded, Councillor Turner? Thank you. Are there any comments on this matter, please? Councillor Andrew Pinnock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mass transit. Now, there's a phrase that is redolent of all sorts of things about the future. Generally speaking, I think it's a good idea, so long as you don't start messing around with the Spen Valley Greenway, because that will cause untold trouble. But so generally speaking, I think this is a good thing. But now I'm going to do a Martin Bolt act, because I don't understand what the recommendation is about. Because the recommendation doesn't mention Kirklees anywhere. And I don't understand that, because I would have thought that the recommendation ought to include all the districts of West Yorkshire, either named, some of them are named here, but not Kirklees, or none of them. So I don't quite understand that. I wouldn't want this to fail because somebody hasn't drafted it properly, because that's what, to my unaided eye almost, it looks like that. It's a very sensible document otherwise, because we have to do the groundwork. It's the same as carrying out the groundwork for a local plan. It's the same, virtually the same procedure. So I know it's got to be done, but I just not sure that it's got everything there, and I mean, if West Yorkshire can have a system like this, it will be brilliant. I can't imagine how much it's going to cost, but that's perhaps a very small peccadillo that the money will follow, as they say, maybe. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems to be a reasonable thing to do this, to get together to have a body who will prepare this because of the legal obstacles we have. So I'm not against this per se at all. I do have just a little degree of nervousness about what's not in there, about the mechanics of how this will actually operate, and the involvement of councillors and the involvement of the public even in drawing this framework document up. So a number of questions really which you might be able to answer. The first is that will this body, this committee, be able to delegate any decisions that they make to officers of any of the councils, or will that not be possible? Will they have any power to determine planning applications relating to the mass transit when it comes about? Simple questions like, will they meet in public? What will the involvement of us as lowly district councillors be to feed into this? What will be the involvement of the public to feed into it as well? Because if we're not careful, what we'll see is that we'll get 5 councillors who I'm sure will do the best to come up with something that works, but it will just emerge, and then we'll all be asked to vote on it, and then we'll say, hang on a minute, I haven't been asked about this, and the public doesn't know about it. So perhaps Councillor Crook could perhaps just allay some of those concerns, because per se it sounds like a good idea, but I just have these reservations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Cooper.
Of course, we're pleased to see anything which helps public transport move along, and that's great. And yes, progress is good, and we are one of the last places with major urban conurbations where we're actually going to see a tram network, and it's a bit of a shame that it's taken us that long. But let's get spades in the ground before the end of Tracy Brabin's current term. So we'll see where that goes. It is disappointing that we don't really know how long it's going to be before Kirklees will see some benefit from this. And it does seem to be a bit of a Leeds-Bradford arrangement that sees them at the top of the queue again for funding to make things happen. And that's just the way it seems to be at the West Yorkshire level a lot of the time. Councillor Crook made reference to the Penistone line improvements. And just a bit of a plea to Councillor Crook. I've just gone through my old Kirklees press releases, which somehow, sadly, I keep hold of. And the Penistone Line £48 million has been announced 3 times in Kirklees Council press releases. Please can we not have it as a 4th, because it just seems like you're trying to... the last government announced it, you've announced it twice. Can we not announce it again? How many press releases can you get out of one lot of money?
Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I share some of the views and comments from the previous speakers. There are questions, of course there are. We're on the beginning of a journey with this, and it's absolutely right. We should do this. It's the right direction. We should be going in this direction. I think the main thing I've got to add is that at the moment the scrutiny process in WICA, Councillor Smith will agree with me that it tends to be a post-scrutiny thing without much involvement pre-decision and just pre-decision really. It's done, and then that's it. We get to look at it, like it or lump it, call it in if you will. So there's that I would really rather not happen, and that any scrutiny of this would happen at the consultation stage before the decision stage. So I think I'd just like to add that.
Thank you. Councillor John Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Moses, for the update. I'm also going to ask about the Penistone Line and the £48 million investment that Andrew was talking about. In my village in Shepley, we've been trying for a number of years to get the disabled access sorted out. It is almost impossible to get a straight answer from anybody in the rail industry about when or what is going to happen. You end up in that situation where you speak to somebody, they refer you to somebody else who refers you on, you keep getting referred on, you end up with the person you started off with, and then you start going around the circle again. And we have a Friends of Shepley Station group that, are tirelessly trying to find somebody who can give them a straight answer. And it seems impenetrable. So we've got this money hopefully coming down the line, and as Andrew mentioned, it's been announced so many times now, but nothing further. It feels almost as though there isn't a clear person who's driving any of this, and whether Kirklees is prepared to be that person to step forward and to help residents, because they're just frustrated that they keep asking different people, and as I say, everybody points them to somebody else, and you just go round and round and round and round in circles. So anything you can do to help us just find out who is it, what do we need to do, if there's anything the community needs to do, and I'm not sure there is, but can we get some clarity on if and when this is going to be sorted out? Because we have a station where on one platform you can get to it if you're disabled, on the other you can't. So you can go towards Sheffield, but you can't go towards Huddersfield. And then, obviously, once you got there, you can't come back. So, thank you.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to rise to support this item on the agenda. As Councillor Crook and Councillor Firth know, we're working very hard at the Combined Authority on all the projects to improve connectivity and economic growth in West Yorkshire. And this mass transit, I think we've got permission now to call it tram, which is much more understandable because it took me a while to figure out what's mass transit. But I did learn in my investigations that Leeds, and I'm led to believe that civil servants in London call West Yorkshire the Leeds city region, but Leeds is the largest city in Europe that doesn't have some form of mass transit. And as others have said, that is a shame, and it must be corrected. And we must work quickly and collaboratively across West Yorkshire with our partner organisations and our neighbouring councils to get on and deliver this, because it's been a long time coming and we need it. And we are working hard on the Transport Committee to make sure that Kirklees' part in mass transit is kept at the top of the agenda. That leg to Dewsbury is very important to us, and we are constantly pushing for it. Those of you that were lucky enough to pick up one of these local transport plan consultation documents will see that it is on the maps. We've got it literally put it on the map, which is an achievement. I also want to welcome the Penistone line, because it's personal to me that I commuted to Sheffield University for 4 years every day on the Penistone line. I memorised all 14 of those stations, and I'm fully aware of the accessibility problems, and it's got to the point now where officers at the Combined Authority and fellow councillors at the Combined Authority know exactly what I'm going to say when I stand up to talk to an item that contains the Penistone line or rail investment. One of the reasons we keep announcing it is because it's brilliant news, but also progress is being made, and we are keeping it at the top of the agenda. That's how these things work. We are constantly pushing for this progress to be made. The TRU is brilliant. The Penistone line is also going to be brilliant. We could do with a bit more money, but we're going to do a great job with the money that we've got. And just a final note, with my Kirklees Transport Engagement Lead hat on, I don't know if James is still here, James Nutter next door, who was an officer at the Combined Authority in the transport team, who is here to talk to us all about the ongoing consultation about the local transport plan, the Mayor's local transport plan, which is out for consultation right now. Please go and have a word with him or pick up one of these glossy documents, because they're well worth a read, and make sure that all of your constituents and pressure groups and friends of station groups and all the rest of it are aware and participating, because we need everybody's voice in West Yorkshire to be part of this process, and mass transit can't come fast enough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Can we just clarify, it's the West Yorkshire Mayor? It's the West Yorkshire Mayor's transport plan. I just let you know, we'll just make that clarity. Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report and the subject on is like a curate's egg. You know, it's good in parts, and we look at it, and yeah, it's fine words, but they're butter no parsnips. Let's have a look at some of the aspects of it and the track record of this authority and others in delivery. Housing, economic and transport integration. Sounds great, aligning new housing, town centre regen, economic growth with sustainable transport infrastructure. How did that work with the so-called Dewsbury Riverside, which isn't in Dewsbury, not by a riverside? Residents say that there should have been, if you'd gone to Wakefield or Leeds, the infrastructure would have been put in before the development started. But we're not getting any of that. We're still getting, if you look at the car park for the new Ravensthorpe station, it's got about the same capacity as the old one, and there's 4,500 houses being built next to it. Active travel, sustainable mobility. Great. Let's look at the track record. Yeah, expanding and connecting active travel, blah, 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 yeah. So what happened from this cabinet with the Heckman White Ringway? When we were promised in March 2021 that we could sleep soundly in our beds. We're on with it, said Steve Hall. We've got £1.5 million and we're on with it. We haven't seen a penny of that stuck in the ground. There was an opportunity there before what did Councillor Cooper once call them? Rapacious developers. Before somebody came on site, there was an opportunity. That was missed. In 2018, the Combined Authority went to the launch of a Sustrans report on missing links. One of those was in Murfield, connecting the Calder Valley Greenway from Church Lane through to Hurst Lane. Still nothing happened. Expanding and connecting active travel routes. We've celebrated the Transpennine route upgrade. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, I highlighted with senior officers the threat that was coming down the line, and I highlighted to our Deputy Mayor and others that represent that area that the Transpennine route upgrade would sever the Calder Valley Greenway, at least temporarily. We're now seeing until next year the Calder Valley Greenway over Colliery Bridge will be severed. We could have put in place an improvement and an alternative where they could have gone down on the Broad Canal. That's now going to come probably after the works have done. You are now routing cyclists, walkers and horse riders on the diversion around Cooper Bridge. Well done for that. We're looking, the Deputy Leader mentioned acronyms. Okay, let's have an acronym to look at. M2D2L, how many remember that? That was a great buzzword that the Council and its partners had. That stood for Murfield to Dewsbury to Leeds. So what have we got in this? Oh, we've lost M2. Typical of the Labour administration, you've cut Murfield out of the investment plans. Everything is stopping at Dewsbury. Referring to Councillor Cooper's question, how many press releases can you get out of one announcement? I couldn't, he's not in the room at the moment, but I couldn't see from over here whether his tongue was firmly in his cheek, because he seems to be a past master of this, at recycling the same press release over and over again. So, Madam Mayor, we hope that the track record of this authority and the West Yorkshire one, the Mayor's authority, is better than it has been. We hope to see some of these things delivered, particularly with regard to active travel. As Councillor Pinnock has said, the Spen Valley Greenway, the jewel in the crown of the Greenway network. When this council was awarded one of the best greenways in Europe, that was because of the accessibility of the Spen Valley Greenway. I doubt very much whether you'd put much heavy infrastructure on there, since Yorkshire Water are allowed to lay a sewage pipe. Also, since the ringway, as we mentioned, has not been completed. So, good in parts, but bad in others. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Darwin. Councillor Darwin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the past 9 months, residents in Dewsbury South have faced intolerable disruption because Calder Road, Mill Street, Forge Lane and Thornhill Road have all been closed at the same time. Journeys that should take 10 minutes now take 45 minutes or more. Driveways are being blocked, side streets are clogged with unsafe parking, and residents are struggling even to access their own homes. Residents have also raised concerns that the new railway bridge works are taking far too long. People are openly comparing it to places like Dubai, where entire cities are built in 6 months. Yet here, in the United Kingdom and Dewsbury South, yet here a single bridge seems to take years. How do you justify this pace of work to a community that has already endured 9 months of disruption? Constituents are less interested in excuses and more interested in solutions. What specific steps will this council personally take to ensure Dewsbury South residents can travel safely and without excessive delay in the coming days, not months? Residents in Dewsbury South are reporting significant damage to local roads caused by the constant presence of extremely heavy goods vehicles, many of which are being diverted due to ongoing closures and works.
Councillor Darwin,
I know it's the traffic, remember, we've been queuing.
Yes, but that was for the key discussion. I don't wish to interrupt, but this is about the mass transit spatial development framework. So can you link your comments? Can you link your comments?
I am linking it. I'm 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 linking it. Who will be responsible for repairing the rebuilding the affected roads in Dewsbury South? Wait a minute, I'm coming. It's the traffic flow. It's got to be Ed. When can residents expect a clear timetable for these repairs, given that the West Yorkshire Combined Authority has billions of pounds in funding available for infrastructure? What plans are in place to ensure that some of this investment is directed towards repairing and future-proofing the road network in Dewsbury South?
Thank you, Councillor Darwin. Right, okay. Councillor Turner, you reserve the right.
Councillor Cook, who was much more of an expert on this than I am.
Councillor Crook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you everyone for your comments and questions. Who was first? Andrew Pinnock. Mass transit, generally a good idea. Quite agree with you. Yes, it is. Kirklees is definitely part of this process. This is a process that requires, by necessity, all 5 authorities to approve it. There will be a consultation, and then it will come back to council to be approved. David Hall. So no, the committee will not be able to delegate as I understand it, although I will need to defer to officers for the technicalities on that. The committee will be working with officers to deliver the stages of consultation as the DPD is developed, and then the developed document will come back to council to be looked at again and will need approval, so we will get ample opportunity to look at that again. No, I don't think the committee of a single councillor from each authority will have planning powers in and of itself. The spatial development framework will be part of future planning considerations once it's developed and adopted by, I think, all of the councils and the Secretary of State. So it's quite a sort of cumbersome process to match the acronym. Will it meet in public? I don't know. I'll find out and get back to you. I suspect not, because it's a process committee, so it's to make sure that each council has some involvement and a seat at the table during the development to make sure our interests are represented in that process. And the council and public involvement. So the two things that we're asking for approval for are a Section 18 and a Section 19 consultation. So I imagine there will be consultation as part of those. So I hope everyone will be kept up to speed, and I'm perfectly happy to keep everyone to report back and keep everyone up to speed about my involvement if it's me indeed that sits on that panel. Andrew, progress. Taken too long, yes, I agree. It's taken the leadership of Tracy Brabin to bring mass transit to West Yorkshire, and I celebrate that, and I'm very pleased to be part of that process. Leeds and Bradford are the first route, that's right. I firmly believe, as I've said many times here in the council chamber, that any investment into our region benefits all of us, and we should celebrate and support investment into any part of the region whenever we can. The Penistone line, yes, there's been 3 announcements because the previous government finally gave us the money and then they lost the election, and so the money was removed, so we had to get the money reconfirmed. It's been a bit of an onerous process, but we do have actual drawdown on that money now to develop the outline business case, and sufficient drawdown to continue straight to full business case, presuming that the outline business case is approved. So really positive about the Penistone line. I think we probably should get a commission every time we say the word. Take your point about Wicker scrutiny. I don't think that applies here because we're going to go into a consultation process which will then come back to this council, so we will get an opportunity to look again at the development of the DPD. John, talking about the Penistone line and disabled access, I absolutely agree with you, and I'm sure you've read with interest the new transport strategy that we passed through Cabinet a week ago, which does very clearly identify our commitment to ensuring there is accessible routes onto public transport, onto all of the transport options in West Yorkshire. So absolutely committed to that, and I'm very aware of the station where you can get on as an accessible customer, going in one direction and then not go home again. So very keen to support that and working with the community groups there.
It's 1 minute to 7, so in accordance with Procedural 5.5, can I move that we formally start the key discussion item?
We need to put that to vote. Is it seconded? So we need to put it to the vote that we formally start the key discussion item at 7 o'clock.
Question, Martha.
Even though we have not yet finished this item.
Madam Mayor, the procedural is no later than, it's not after, that's why I rose early, it's no later than 7.
It is.
It's your discretion too.
So, can I suggest, this is a suggestion, all right, that we go to the vote on this item. We have the vote. We can move to the key discussion item, but if you want a break as well, then, you know, we will need to vote on whether to go straight to the key discussion item and not have a break. So what you were saying is that we will start at 7 o'clock, the key discussion item. Can you just clarify that, Councillor Bolt, that is what you're saying?
And then we suspend, we have a break. It's within the Mayor's power to suspend a meeting at any time, so that we satisfy, and I know looking at the top table how keen they are that we adhere to the rules, so that we satisfy CPR 5.5, we start before 7 and then suspend it, Madam Mayor.
Right, okay, so we need a vote for that. Okay, so all those who wish to vote for moving to the key discussion item, suspending it and having a break. Okay. I mean, I would have moved to the vote on this, and then I would have started the item and gone to the break. But hey, okay. So, but the motion has been put that we move to the key discussion item, and that has been seconded. So we'll vote on the consoles for those that wish to vote for the moving to the key discussion item straight away and not moving to the vote on this one.
We'll come back to that later. So I might be in a better frame of mind. So yeah, you can't do it. Yeah, the rule says you've got to start.
Has everybody voted who wishes to vote? So that is carried then. So we will move to the key discussion item. Okay. Councillor Cooper, you're going to ask me a very technical question, aren't you now? Right, so let us be clear then. So we have now moved off the mass transit spatial development framework.
Pause the item.
We've paused it.
To come back to it after.
We will need to come back to it after the key discussion item. We have started the key discussion item as per the vote, and we will now rise for a break for about 10 minutes. Can all council members please take their seats if they wish to be in the chamber? We are now on key discussion, item 14. I believe this is Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Pinnock. So is it Councillor Hawkins to begin? Councillor Hawkins, you have a maximum of 10 minutes between the two of you, okay?
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councillors. I want to begin by echoing something the Mayor opened with in paying tribute to Liz Cusick. You'll see as we go through the slides, 30 odd years working in Kirklees Highways. I remember meeting Liz when I was all the way down here when I was coming into the office with my dad. So I've known Liz for a long time, and you'll see her legacy throughout these slides and all the work that's been going on in Kirklees in that time, particularly in the Highways team. Just in terms of how we're going to do this key discussion, I'll begin with an overview on our safety record here in Kirklees, the work our highways safety team does with data and the action we've taken across the district, as well as the challenges that we face. I'll then hand over to Councillor Pinnock, who will talk about our education initiatives, our partnership working, and how all these efforts come together to make our roads safer for everyone. Let's start by setting the scene. I think I did have some slides. I don't know if they've been up somewhere, is that right? Yes, no, maybe. It's going to be hard explaining the data if not. That's him over there. No slides? I'll talk through the slides, that's fine. I'll talk through without. Yes, yeah. Apologies for that. So I'll start by setting the scene of how Kirklees does compared to the rest of the region. There was going to be some tables here with some data over the past 3 years. I'll make sure that after this meeting that presentation is circulated, because it does have some good information on there as well. Since the graphs would chart from 2019, and sort of since we've come back after lockdown, because there were far fewer vehicles on the road, we've seen a steady decrease over the past 3 years of accidents across the district. Which is what we like to see, casualties going down. In terms of where we sit compared to our neighbours, Coldsdale has the fewest casualties, then followed by Wakefield, Kirklees, Bradford, and then Leeds with the highest. And that roughly reflects population density as well, with Leeds at the top, Coldsdale at the bottom, and Kirklees in the middle. There was going to be a chart as well breaking down the killed or seriously injured accidents in Kirklees. Thank you very much. Once again, there's been a downward trend across all user groups, but the majority of casualties have been within car occupants, and that does seem to be, again, consistent with national figures. There is a ward breakdown as well. Again, this will be circulated with how each of our wards do in terms of casualties. At the top, with the highest rate of casualties, is Newsham, and at the lowest is Denbigh. But as I say, when that presentation is circulated, you can have a peruse at that as well and see how your ward does. The graph shows, there would have been a graph again that showed where we're doing with our Vision Zero targets. That's a 50% reduction over 8 years, which started in 2022. In 2025, we've had 4 fatalities, which is a slight increase on last year, 120 serious injuries, which is a decrease by 10, and 379 what are dubbed slight injuries as well, sort of bruising on the back of an accident. Councillor Pinnock will talk more about net zero, but I do appreciate that when talking about facts and figures, they seem very cold. They're just numbers on the screen, but it's important to remember that behind every single figure is a family that's been impacted, had lives changed, lives lost, people who haven't gone home to their loved ones, and we really can never lose sight of that, which is why when we all say one accident is one too many, we've truly got to mean that. We can't have any family going through the pain and loss that comes with a casualty accident. So again, I talked at the last meeting quite a bit about a data-driven approach, and I've told you a bit about sort of the data that we do have. But what do we do with this data? When road traffic collisions occur, you've got West Yorkshire Police who collect the detailed information and pass that on to the highway safety team. That data is analysed annually to identify the areas that need action, and they're broken down particularly into 3 areas. One that we dubbed collision cluster sites. These are locations with an unusually high number of similar sort of accidents. There's then route studies and treatments where a particular, not necessarily a junction or an area, but a whole route has been facing sort of similar challenges across the board as well. And then there's also areas that we identify for what we dub quick wins, things where we can do sort of fast resolutions and take actions to urgently address particular safety issues that have arisen. Our funding is prioritised using a method called first-year rate of reduction, or rate of return, should I say. This compares the cost of the scheme with the expected accident reduction, especially for these serious and fatal collisions as well. Schemes with the highest impact are prioritised, whilst others are considered in future years. Since 2022, we've delivered 19 of the casualty reduction schemes funded using the City Regional Sustainable Transport Settlement. And yes, there's an acronym that goes with that as well. That is around 900k a year that the council receives. This includes route treatments for lines, traffic calming schemes, pedestrian improvements, as well as junction improvements as well. Forgive me, it's a bit hard with the slides of the prompt. There's going to be some nice pictures and examples and everything of where we've done it across the borough. Next is to something that Councillor Armour raised, quite a few meetings that we'll be corresponding quite a bit on, is road markings, which do matter for highway safety. For our A and B roads, we do an annual refresh programme based on the surveys and traffic data. Again, safety critical stop lines and give-way junctions do get priority in that case. But there are also ward-based lining packages. So when a particular ward has quite a few faded lines across, there is a package where a contractor goes out and spends a week in the ward to address that as well. We've refreshed about 15 kilometres of road markings on our A and B roads, about 2 kilometres on our C unclassified, 393 safety critical road markings in 12 wards, and 136 standalone markings. The final, if you want, tool in our arsenal when it comes to dealing with road safety from a highway safety perspective is traffic regulation orders. We've had 41 of them so far this year. 19 have been delivered by the highway safety team and 22 have been delivered from developers linked to planning or major projects. That includes things like parking permits, speed limit changes, double yellow lines, school markings and pedestrian crossings. Despite all of this progress, though, obviously challenges do remain, and we can never do enough when it comes to road safety. In terms of where we are right now, we've had 1,400 inquiries from residents which have identified approximately 250 cluster sites that I was talking about earlier, where we're seeing similar accidents occurring. Again, the budget I was talking about, that 900k that we receive, is ring-fenced for casualty reduction only. That doesn't stretch to any preventative measures. And when it comes to the preventative measures and the work that we are doing around that, and the leading causes, they are what is dubbed, I mean, anyone who's got Operation Trimberg in their wards will be familiar with this, the fatal 5, which are carelessness, alcohol or drug use, speeding, distraction, and not wearing a seatbelt. That accounts for up to 80% of our killed and seriously injured accidents, and that's £900,000 we've got to deal with the casualty reduction. If you were to break that down for each of your ward, it's roughly about £40,000 each ward. So it's not a lot of money, which is why the data-led approach is both the right approach to tackling areas where we've seen a large amount of casualties and is sensible use of our resources. And with that thought, I will pass over to Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm a little bit bummed up today, so I apologise for how I sound. Some people are drinking coffee, others are drinking So, thank you, Councillor Hawkins, for your detailed presentation on highway safety there. As chair of the Community Safety Partnership Board and Vision Zero Board member, I'm proud to highlight the important partnership working that's taking place to make our roads safer for everyone. Although road safety is a small aspect of my portfolio, it's probably one of the most important areas. These boards bring together key agencies including the Council, West Yorkshire Police, West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, community organisations and so on to tackle the causes and consequences of road-related harm. This work is guided by our shared commitment to Vision Zero, the ambition to eliminate all road deaths and serious injuries in Kirklees by 2049. Through the Kirklees Road Safety Partnership, we take a data-led, community-focused approach. We analyse trends in collisions and public concerns to shape targeted interventions. And these include school-based education programmes that teach children and parents about road travel and safety, community speed indicator devices, we all know about those, deployed in hotspot areas, and also campaigns to raise awareness of dangerous driving and promoting safer behaviours. Our work is not just about enforcement, it's about prevention, it's about education and empowering communities. We work closely with local residents, schools and voluntary groups to ensure that road safety is everyone's responsibility. Together we're building safer, more inclusive communities where people feel confident and reassured in their daily lives. Last month, the Vision Zero Board held a community event in Leeds, supported by our West Yorkshire Mayor, to raise awareness about road safety. A similar event will be hosted right here in Kirklees shortly, where we'll be launching our Car of Learning and Engagement, COLE. And I'll tell you a little bit more about COLE towards the end of the presentation. As indicated by Councillor Hawkins, road safety isn't just about engineering. Education and engagement are absolutely critical, particularly for the next generation of road users. In 2024-2025, Kirklees delivered 373 road safety sessions across 138 schools, 2 Scouts groups and 1 supermarket, reaching nearly 20,000 attendees. That's 92% increase on the previous year. We also delivered 11,600 bikeability training places, making us one of the top performing authorities. Bikeability is the UK government's national cycle training programme, which helps individuals, particularly children, gain skills and confidence to cycle safely on our roads today. We support...
Councillor Pinnock, can I just ask, I realise this is a very important subject and I want everybody to be able to take part in the debate.
Yes.
The 10 minutes is, you are over the 10 minutes. So could you...
I'm coming to the end.
Is there some summary that you can...
I am coming to the end.
So that you give the information.
Could you give me a few minutes?
It's really important.
Yeah, it's a few minutes because these figures...
Everybody gets the information.
Really, really
and
important.
Everybody can take part in the debate.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So we support safe and active travel through Mud Safe Stars programme, which I'm sure a lot of you know about, where schools are signed up to it. Some schools are doing really well, from achievement to outstanding, and the programme helps children and families walk, cycle and scoot to school. We work closely with the West Yorkshire Safety Camera Partnership to bring in new community safety camera van sites based on residents and councillor feedback. And I told you about COLE earlier on. Since April 2022, 30 road safety schemes have been delivered. And of 18 of those, over a 12-month period, we've been able to analyse the situation. And we found that 89 fewer collisions have taken place and 130 fewer casualties have happened. And then coming to the end, looking at the financial year data of April 2022 to March 2025, we've seen 100 fewer collisions overall and 107 fewer casualties. One accident will always be too many. I'm sure we're all in agreement with that. The council clearly has a part to play, as do partners such as West Yorkshire Police and other partners. Many of you have used your ward budget to fund initiatives like Operation Trimberg and the speed indicator devices, which we all know about. But ultimately, road safety is everyone's responsibility, including everyone here tonight and everyone watching at home. We must do more. This isn't the end, that we have a long, long way to go. So I'll end there by saying thank you to Councillor Hawkins for your presentation and the information you've provided today. We will be circulating the information. Sadly, we should have had the slides up, but they're not available for us, so we'll make sure everybody gets those. And I'm looking forward to hearing your ideas and your experiences and I'm being shut down. Thank you.
We were just having a slight technical glitch, which is why we let you go on a little bit longer. We now have the microphones back on the screen. So if you wish to speak on this item, can you please indicate? So we will go to Councillor Anthony Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the talk. I'm sure we all look forward to seeing the slides. Just a few things to observe in that affect the Lindley ward, certainly, and I dare say other wards in Kirklees, particularly in terms of speeding, parking, general bad behaviour by motorists around our schools. We have been petitioning with the council alongside parents groups for improvements to the roads around our schools, whether that's reduction in speed limits to 20 miles per hour, where we've been successful, making certain difficult roads one way, increased enforcement. Parking along zigzags is endemic, parking on pavements, forcing pedestrians and prams onto the road is endemic. There's by no means anywhere near enough attention and resource paid to enforcement around our schools during term time. And we've actually been in situations where we've had officers engaged when the schools are actually on holiday, which is madness. We welcome all help we can get from the council and from council officers. We do try to engage positively, but we really do not think that enough emphasis and enough resource is placed, particularly around our schools. We also requested for some measures to be taken on Newhay Road, a major artery that runs through our ward into Huddersfield. We had a fatality there less than 2 years ago. We've asked for a reduction in the speed limit. We've asked for speed cameras. We did manage to get some ad hoc mobile enforcement. I also note that while I welcome the council's engagement with Vision Zero, it was a very slow start. Now I hope that those additional resources that are coming from the Mayor are going to be focused in Kirklees where they can make the most significant difference. And I think I'd speak for all members here where I think we need more enforcement, we need more attention paid around our local schools in particular. Thank you.
Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Masood Ahmed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Pinnock, for your presentations. My questions are in relation to what my colleague was trying to get through earlier on, so I brought it under key discussion item. Now, within Dewsbury South, we've got Transpennine upgrade taking place. Whilst I welcome the 3.5 billion into the Transpennine, in terms of Thornhill Road in particular, that has been closed now for up to a year, and they're supposed to open, and they've obviously started saying to us that it's still going to be closed for a further couple of months in relation to other issues that have come about. We've also got Forge Lane, which is another route going towards Dewsbury Westward through to Ravensthorpe, closed as well due to flooding on Yorkshire Water. Are obviously doing work on that. We've also got Breton Street closed due to gas works being taken, and that's going to take another 5 weeks. So the whole traffic is on one route at the moment, which is Savile Road, and it's obviously having a big impact on the residents within that ward in terms of road safety. There have been a number of accidents. Obviously there has been incidents where there's been a lot of road rage taking place and collisions and people's driveways being blocked, as well as obviously items being damaged as well. What I would like to ask is, surely in terms of work that will be taking place, obviously our highways section would have looked at what other things they could have done in terms of having temporary traffic lights there to accommodate the traffic flow, or managing them manually, or other stuff. Because at the moment, honestly, it is absolutely gridlocked. What would be a 5-minute journey into Dewsbury town centre is a 45-minute to 30-minute journey at the moment. So you can imagine at school times, peak times, is absolutely horrendous. So I just would like to ask the Cabinet members, either Councillor Hawkins or Councillor Pinnock, in terms of how can we really address this issue, because it's impacting on schools as well. And we've got a lot of schools, a lot of madrasas within my ward. Within that ward alone, geographically, there's about 11, 12 mosques as well. So there's a lot of children going into supplementary schools as well as mainstream schools as well. So we welcome that's going on, but it's having a lot of impact. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Can I just remind, excuse me, can I just remind members it's a discussion item? Okay, all right. But I'm sure the Cabinet members will be taking note of what's being said. Okay. Councillor Bamford.
And it's we're still getting collisions there. It's quite a busy road, it's quite a busy pavement in school times. We've had 4 vehicles go through the wall since the improvements were done. The improvements were moving some white lines and putting an illuminated sign up to alert people that know there's a bend there, that there is a bend there. I suggested putting a barrier there and having a high friction coating put on the road, which would have helped, well, it would have stopped people going over the pavement and into the wall. Twice a day and school days, you've got pavements full of kids. What I don't want to see is a car leave that road and go over that pavement into the wall and take some kids with it. This is a tragedy waiting to happen. I have asked for a meeting actually with officers, and I've had radio silence on that. So I'd just like to ask if officers and Councillor Hawkins would meet me down there and just revisit this, because there's something wrong with that road, either the friction value of the tarmac or it's off camber, but regardless of that, whatever we've done to that road, these accidents are still happening and something needs to be done about it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cooper.
So, thinking back to getting off 30 years ago now, when we were first breaking through in the Newsham ward, the Labour Party said, be careful, if you elect the Greens, they'll try and put traffic calming everywhere. And they were right, we did. And we used ward budgets, we used public realm funding, every little bit of money we could find to get local schemes where people had concerns to get traffic calming schemes there. And if you go around the Newsham ward, you can see quite a number of those out and about as we go along. So the important thing to mention about that is those schemes are against Kirklees policy. None of those schemes would have got the traffic calming that they needed if it was down to Kirklees policy. There were areas where traffic was speeding. There were areas where people were concerned for their safety and for their children's safety. And those schemes that we've got done, some in collaboration, where we had things on the boundary with Almonbury councillors, we did joint schemes there. So a lot of that is so we were filling in the gap in a lot of ways with the things that we've done. So making up for a deficiency, and because we were looking at preventative measures and looking at things which brought safety, so we have not got the flexibility in our own policies to be able to give people that certainty that they need, that they're going to be living on a safe road. And many of us are aware of the dreaded matrix, where we have where we put an area forward for traffic calming, Highways have been out to it and they go, I'm terribly sorry, it doesn't meet our criteria. Computer says no, essentially. And that's limited by the funding that is available. And it's good to see the 900k. And you will see in the budget amendments we put forward over the years that we've generally put £1 million into road safety. And that has been top sliced out of other budgets to make sure we're able to say yes more often. And a bit of a plea about language. We've heard the word accident used here. And Joe Shiner, who's the National Police Chief's Council lead for roads policing, has called for an end to the use of the word accident when describing collisions of road vehicles. And that's because you never hear about train accidents or plane accidents. They're crashes, they're collisions. And it's important because the word accident means it's just, you know, something that happened, there's no blame, there was nothing that we could have done to prevent it. And so I know it's easy to fall into that language, but we should make a real effort to actually abolish the word accident when we're talking about road collisions and crashes, because there is blame attached to it, and I think that will be the start of something. And instead of just thinking necessarily about road safety and about making things all right for pedestrians, we should actually put the pedestrians at the top of the hierarchy and have a pedestrian-friendly strategy for Kirklees, which puts them at the top. We're not trying to mitigate the problems of traffic, we've got to put pedestrians at the top, because ultimately we're all pedestrians.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillors Hawkins and Pinnock, for the presentation. It gratefully received, and I would like to join you in paying tribute to Liz Cusick, formerly Twitchett. Liz from Highways, as I'm sure she'll be known to a lot of us, she will be sorely missed, and her service to the Council deserves recognition. It's a shame about the slides. We did have this presented to us at Labour Group on Monday, and please do, members, when you receive the slides, have a good look through them. There's plenty of very interesting information in there, as well as good examples of the work that has happened in some wards that we can all learn from and maybe replicate in our areas. Do look at them carefully, because if for no other reason, they show that we are on track to meet our Vision Zero target, which is a 50% reduction in killed or seriously injured KSI before 2030. We are in fact slightly ahead of track to meet those targets, and that is to be welcomed. That is lives saved, that is the health of our residents protected, that is our communities made safer. I can think in Colne Valley ward alone, we have 3 speed indicator devices, 3 SIDs that we rotate around the ward that are a vital source of calming, but also of intelligence that the police can use to better target their enforcement action. And we have used Place Standards money to fund Operation Trimborg in Linthwaite, and every time we get an update from the police about those, it is quite remarkable how, with quite a little bit of officer overtime, they're able to find so many infringements and so many people not wearing seatbelts. It's shocking, and behavioural change is an important part of Vision Zero going forward. We all must do better. We must. I'm grateful for all the work that local residents, officers locally and regionally, have done alongside partners like the police to make these improvements happen. Thank you, and keep going. It is greatly appreciated and it is working, so please do carry on. I know that highways improvements and TROs, that's traffic regulation orders, double yellow lines and the like for the people listening at home, are an important part of this improvement. And I can think of at least one TRO in Colne Valley ward which is currently making an enormous difference to road safety in Slowett. But these schemes can take, and sometimes do take, a long time to come to fruition, sometimes years. And that can be frustrating for councillors and for officers. But from our observations, it's not due to a lack of hard work and effort on behalf of officers, or indeed a lack of expertise and skill. It is by and large a result of the national shortage of qualified highways officers that we all know exists. So if I may, Madam, maybe cheeky and ask a question, which is how are we doing growing our own qualified highways officers from within the council so that we can help these schemes keep going and metaphorically gather up speed? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cahoot. Is he in the... Councillor Cahoot.
I'm over here now. Moved me again. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hawkins and Pinnock, for all the information. Stand down here a bit. I'll sit down, in fact. How's that? Look, I'm out of there. Whoa. So, with reference to road safety, I just like to contribute and make an observation. Commercial Road junction with Bradford Road in Dewsbury, right opposite my offices, must have seen since 2013 at least 10 accidents there. And the link, I believe, and I've told police officers this because I go out and try to assist whenever there's an accident. The link, the causal link, I believe, is the road markings on the giveaway sign and the cycle lane. So as you're coming down the hill on Commercial Road and you're looking for what you think is the giveaway sign, you might be seeing the cycle lane. And what's happened on so many of these occasions is people pulling too far out or stopping late at that giveaway, causing the accident. So my observation and feedback and input, if it were, is wherever there is a giveaway, I would suggest that a cycle lane doesn't go all the way across those giveaways because it gives an illusion, a false illusion of where the giveaway might be. So I've seen it, like I said, since 2013, lots of accidents happening, which I believe because of that, people pulling or failing to stop at the giveaway because they might be seeing the cycle lane going straight across. So it's just an observation. I hope it can be fed back and perhaps taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sheard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hawkins. On the matter of road safety, I just want to raise Windmill Lane in Birstall. It's home to two schools, Windmill Primary and Batley Girls High School, and it's also a main bus route for Arriva as well, and for the school buses coming from Batley Girls High School back up to Batley. Every day school traffic collides with the local bus services and again the school buses that are serving Batley Girls High School, and the result is constant daily gridlock. And residents simply have had enough. They can't get in and out of the drives to go to appointments, they can't go and pick up their own children from other schools. And for the last couple of years now, we've been working with the residents and with the two primary schools, with enforcement officers and the police to try and manage the congestion problem that we're facing and try and cut down the amount of traffic that we've got and make sure children are looked after as well. We've introduced double yellow lines in certain areas on the street to try and create some form of breathing room when congestion starts getting a bit too much. We've involved traffic enforcement officers, and when those officers are present, there is a visible improvement to the amount of congestion that's going on, but obviously enforcement officers can't be there due to limited staffing numbers. So when they're not there, the problem does come back. In Birstall and Berkshire, us as councillors, we have done a lot to support residents and reduce the congestion, but our focus has now gone from trying to limit the amount of traffic going on, coming through the lane, to making sure that the school children are protected crossing the street and that they are safe going to and from school. Children, parents and residents, they're faced to weave through long lines of traffic, vans and buses, and drivers can sometimes be very frustrated with them, and there has been quite a few shouting matches between residents and drivers that are on the lane. What I'm asking today, please, if you could, is to support us as councillors in trying to fix that problem and make sure that the primary school children and the secondary school children are safe. We have been trying to get a pelican crossing, or a pedestrian crossing, on the lane for quite a while, and we've not been successful in doing that. would you be able to support us, please, in making sure that we do get that Pelican crossing on Windmill Lane so that the primary school children are safe and the secondary school children, and then support us and work with us to try and cut down the amount of congestion that's going on Windmill Lane? Because I've lived in that area for 24 years, and for 24 years it's been the same. I've been to the school, I went to Windmill Primary myself, and it has always been the same. Constant congestion. There's been cases where ambulances haven't been able to get through, going to emergencies because the amount of traffic that's just there. So something really needs to be done, and it really needs to be done now. So any support that you can offer us as ward councillors to make sure that the children are safe and that congestion is cut down would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. We heard in Tyler Hawkins' presentation about the money that's available where an issue meets the matrix, if you like, and the funding that's available, not as much as perhaps we'd want. My comment perhaps is on the flip side of that. So if you've got the record of killed and seriously injured, you may secure some funding for a problem. But when it comes to being proactive, we just don't seem to be able to make much progress. So we end up going back to residents, and effectively the message of the accident record, the killed, serious, injured, is nothing's going to happen until somebody gets seriously hurt or killed. And that's a horrible message to take back. What doesn't help, though, is when the council says that whilst it can't be covered by highways funds, it can be covered by councillors' ward budget if they want to do it. Now, I've had that so many times, and yet it's the most disingenuous response imaginable. It's offensive to some extent because it makes it sound like we can do it when there's absolutely no possibility of us being able to do it. We can't even roll over the funds now, which is what we've done in the past, where we had some ward budget, where we rolled forward that money to pay for a scheme. Now we can't even have the roll forward. When I inquired about a ward budget to fund a traffic order for some double yellow lining, that's almost the entire ward budget for the entire year, for everywhere, for that one thing. And yet that's supposed to be a meaningful reply. When residents read it, they're obviously thinking, well, this council's got a £400 million budget, so why are you holding it back, Councillor Greaves? But Councillor Greaves isn't holding it back, is he? Because Councillor Greaves has got £3,333 at his disposal. So my plea would be, perhaps some additional funding for wards to carry out some of the schemes that won't be done centrally. And it'd be lovely to go back to the day where ward councillors actually had a budget that was worth working out. As it is now, we play around the edges. It's great that we can fund the SID programme, great that we're putting money into Operation Trimberg, but we can't really do anything that gets us on the front foot. Some of the rules that we have aren't particularly helpful, around camera deployments. It's great that finally West Yorkshire Casualty Reduction Scheme saw the light about being more flexible in that approach. Other areas had been more flexible for the last decade. So it's great that West Yorkshire's finally caught up with allowing the camera vans to go into areas where there is a general concern. But if we can have more money for the war budget, that's the way forward. If we're still going to be stuck with 10 grand a year where we effectively can't do anything, please don't send out replies saying that it can be funded from a ward budget when we all know it can't, it won't be, and it's just dishonest to suggest that it could. Thank you.
Councillor Davies.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentations and the information we've heard tonight. Well, I say thank you for the presentation. We haven't seen it yet. We've all doing it about a while. Vision Zero is absolutely a noble ambition, and it's absolutely one accident is one too many. And I hear what you're saying about data is king, and hearing what Councillor Greaves has just said. I just want to talk about those nuisance junctions that we all have in our wards. We know we do. Off the top of my head, let me think about Station Road, Penniston Road in Ulm, in Fenny Bridge, where there's just those grinding low-grade accidents, where what residents hear is that until somebody is hurt, nothing will be done. What are we doing to change that perception in residents and reassure them that we're treating their lives, their day-to-day grind and everything, treating that properly as well? Thank you.
Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Road safety is actually it's a matter for all road users, motorists, cyclists, equestrians, pedestrians alike. But there are sections of road which are at times used dangerously. Added to these, there are bends and junctions which can be deceptive for the unwary or for strangers, and this council has an important role in making our roads safer. Clear and adequate signs and road markings play an indispensable part, and it's very important that speed limits are kept under review, with input from local residents taken fully into account. In Kirklees ward, we have commissioned Operation Trimberg. I do not claim that my ward of Kirklees is unique, and I'm sure that many, and we've already heard quite a lot, many colleagues will have similar issues. I'm frequently contacted by residents expressing their fears about road safety, most often related to traffic speed. In that regard, I have been approached by the Vicar of Emmanuel Church in Shelley, who is concerned that her church fronts a 40-mile-per-hour road. The good folk of Family Tyres are dismayed at what they see as a dangerously speedy rat run through their village. My ward colleague, John Taylor, has done much to publicise speeding issues in Shepley. Grangemoor is plagued by speeding cars in Liley Lane, and both Huddersfield Road and Penistone Road through Shelley are notorious for speeders. Kirkburton, Flockton and Shelley have HGV-related problems giving rise to road safety concerns. At one time or another, I have been told by highways that in these areas there are not enough recorded events causing death or serious injury to justify action. A site of particular concern to me is the junction of Farbank with Huddersfield Road in Shelley. There have been several spectacular collisions there in recent times, but only by the grace of God, it seems, no deaths or serious injuries. Some belated action has been promised, and I thank Councillor Hawkins for his intervention, but there is still no obvious progress. In my experience, it is very difficult to persuade highways to take action, and especially to review a speed limit. The stock response refers to evidence-based criteria, but requests are invariably met with, to paraphrase, not enough serious injury or fatal collisions to justify action. This is misleading. As you will recall, Madam Mayor, I was informed in writing by Councillor Hawkins at Council on the 16th of July, in response to my written question, that the Council looks at statistics relating to speeding, accidents, the layout of the road, bracket, sightlines, access roads, etc., close bracket, the type of road users, bracket, particularly pedestrians, cyclists and children, close bracket, the existing speed limit and the impact on local residents. Now, I do not for a moment think that Councillor Hawkins, or indeed any highways officer, would intentionally mislead a councillor or council itself. Nonetheless, it appears to me that it has become routine for highways to rely exclusively on the serious injury or death criterion when responding to requests for action, for intervention. Practice does not meet policy, and perhaps staff members, highway staff members, should be reminded of the full range of criteria to be considered regarding requests for road safety action. Although understandable, the emphasis on casualty reduction tends to favour reactive, not proactive policies. All of us in this chamber are aware of the need for financial caution, and this is important. Nonetheless, I sincerely hope that requests for road safety improvements are not assessed simply against cost and budget, nor even casualty reduction, because casualty prevention is also very important, rather than the wider cause of public safety. We should never put pounds before people, and we must not gamble with lives merely to meet budgets. Thank you, Madam.
Councillor Eric Firth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but you mentioned earlier Liz Cusack, Liz Twitchett, that we all knew her for many years. We, the Dewsbury councillors, we were all Labour councillors then, worked closely with Liz Twitchett, the Police and Crime Commissioner, to bring average speed cameras onto Leeds Road. And how have they been effective? It's actually magic for the local residents. So we owe Liz Twitchett, Cusack, a great debt of honour, and she will be long remembered in that part of Dewsbury East. A couple of points raised by other speakers. Commercial Street in Dewsbury, proposals are there to make it a one-way street. Hopefully that will curb some accidents. And for the residents of Thornhill, Dewsbury South and West, all being well, the proposal is to open Thornhill Road on October the 10th. I had a meeting with the rail team this morning at West Yorkshire.
Councillor David Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, to say how welcome this debate is. It's long overdue. We don't spend enough time talking about issues like this during the council year. And the issue of road safety particularly affects so many people, and increasingly so. We have an awful lot of nasty things going on in society and crimes that are committed against people that affect few people. Road crime affects an awful lot of people. It only takes one boy racer to drive up a road, and 100 people that live on that road all know about it because they've had their sleep disturbed, and God forbid they have to be involved in the clean-up after a crash. So the boy racers, the dangerous drivers, the speeding, the inconsiderate parking is a bit of a scourge now on all our communities. I was very fortunate really to be involved in a local campaign in Hartshead Village, which is a village in my ward. Local people have been concerned for some time now about the speed of traffic through the village, and this was brought to a head by a very, very nasty accident in which a young lad suffered life-changing injuries, which was earlier on this year. And we've got some great people who in that village have come together to form a little committee, the Hartshead Road Safety Campaign, and we hope that in the months to come we will make a real difference to the way people experience their village. And it's a pattern actually which is replicated across not just my ward but across the whole of the Spen Valley. And I notice if those of you that have had a chance to catch up with the slides from earlier on, that all the Spen Valley wards are in the top half of that table for road traffic collisions, which is a very sorry statistic. But it occurred to me as well that almost every facet of what the council delivers in some way is involved in road safety, from schools to planning applications and of course highways maintenance. But from the bigger point of view, that we all as councillors, all our residents, all the people that work in the borough and all our visitors are all highly, highly dependent on safe roads. And we must do everything we can to make sure that this is what we provide. And that means that we need to have a thorough, joined-up approach with partners, particularly the police, who are so important in this, to identify where we have problems and to tackle them where we have problems. And as some of the speakers have already said, and as Councillor Armour just before me had said, we need a focus on prevention rather than reaction to what has already happened. I'm really glad to hear of the focus of work in schools about safety on roads. That is so, so important. But there's the twin side of that, of course, is that we need enforcement. And this is where I'd like to make a plea tonight for enforcement. We need the enforcement, we need the policing of dangerous drivers. We need the enforcement of yellow lines. We need the enforcement of zigzags around primary schools particularly. I think some drivers think that yellow lines and zigzags are just because the council deigns to paint them on because they've nothing to do. Whereas in fact, these are to safeguard their children. And to see people parking on the zigzags and endangering their own children absolutely beggars belief. So we need the enforcement as well as the public information and the work with the schools and everything else, and the engineering that have been mentioned tonight. So, just to sum up, Madam Mayor, it's great that we're actually talking about this. Let's hope this leads on to something else, because this can literally be a matter of life and death. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Councillor John Lawson.
Madam Mayor, just before, John, please, I'd like to move CPR 18 section.
Hold on a minute,
Right, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move CPR 18 section 23 to extend this key discussion beyond 60 minutes. I think there's a number of members waiting still to speak, and I think it's an important debate, and we should allow people to be heard. If somebody would second that.
Okay, so the motion is that we extend the key discussion beyond 60 minutes to allow those members who still haven't spoken to have the time to speak. And that has been seconded. So we will go to the vote on the council's pleas to lengthen the time of the key discussion, and we are lengthening the time until everybody has spoken on this item. Yes? If we get to 9 o'clock, then that's a different matter. Has everybody voted? Who needs to vote? Yes. So that is carried. So we carry on with the key discussion item. Okay. So we will return to Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. I get to speak after all. Great. Yes, some very good contributions to this debate so far. Very happy that it's been brought forward. I'm very happy that the key discussions now are set in a slightly different way, and I think this is the fruit of that change in the way that these are set, that we're actually talking about something that we can all engage in, all bring something to, and all contribute to something to on behalf of our residents. So also like to align myself with the comments about Liz Cusick. She will be missed. She was a very valuable officer, understood how council worked, and her first thought was always how, not if. And I'd like to point that out. We've talked about data and about the importance of data, and I couldn't agree more. Data is absolutely vital. We've talked about, though, about the use of casualty data, because that's the only stuff that's available to us. That's the only stuff that's shared with us, other than, I can see Councillor Tyler's nodding there, other than the stuff we collect ourselves, which is good, but it tends to be, as Councillor Armour said, it tends to be reactive, not proactive. And I wonder, and I'm quite prepared to be corrected on this, but I wonder if there's a space for councils, not just us, but councils in general, to talk to people like the ABI, the Association of British Insurers, to get their heat maps about where collision only, not casualty, clusters are, and anonymise them, of course. It will take primary legislation, I'm absolutely sure of that. But is that something that we can all work together? If it doesn't already exist, but I guess if it already existed, we'd be using it. Is that something that members in this chamber would work together on, to be able to try and lobby government to say, actually, this would help focus where we concentrate our efforts, where we spend our money, because where there's a cluster of collision-only accidents or collisions as non-injury accidents, surely sometimes it's only a matter of time before there is an injury there. And I just think that's possibly worth us thinking about outside this meeting, perhaps talking through further. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ali.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you to Councillor Pinnock and Councillor Hawkins for the presentation. I feel compelled to speak on this issue and I welcome the opportunity to do so because in my tenure since being elected, I think road safety is one of the top priorities in terms of one of the top things that I get approached by my residents about. So myself and my colleagues both recognise the importance and the ever-growing sort of incidents of road safety in and around Mirfield. And hence we've worked tirelessly with the local town council and residents and recently set up, just like Councillor Hall in his ward, a road safety committee. That's been a welcome addition. But also we like many colleagues, have invested via Operation Trimberg and utilising our ward budget to do that. And again, that has been welcomed by residents. But despite these measures, I feel that road safety is too important to ignore, and yet more investment is required. I know colleagues have mentioned various different challenges around road safety and the different initiatives that Councillor Pinnock has highlighted around education, etc., are again all welcome. But what I feel is that some of these initiatives are falling on deaf ears, and in particular one group of perpetrators that are not being not being investigated enough is something that Councillor Hall alluded to, and these are the boy racers. So particularly and certainly I get reports of this via social media, through emails, through phone calls from my residents in Mirfield. It's well known that the Formula 1 track that runs from, I think, through Councillor Kendrick's ward, through Hetman-Dwight, Norristhorpe, along Huddersfield Road, through Sunnybank, back onto Leeds Road, into Ravensthorpe and Dewsbury. It's quite well known and documented, and it has been for a number of years. What I would like to see is, again, stronger enforcement when it comes to tackling these boy racers and clamp down on some of the illegal vehicles that are being modified illegally and causing not just road safety but also a nuisance to residents with the amount of noise. I'd welcome greater links working with the police to clamp down and enforce bigger penalties, and I think the sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jo Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hawkins, for your presentation. Like every other councillor in the room, I too get the emails about we need traffic calming, we need this, we need that, and normally they come back with a copy and paste, same email, if you can't have it because there isn't the actual money. Councillor Sheed mentioned the road in his ward where there are 2 primary schools. I'm going to up it and I'm going to talk to you about Dryclough Road, where there are 2 primary schools and a high school. Yes, we've got traffic calming on that road, which is wonderful, but you won't need it at school kicking out time because nothing actually moves on there. It's taken me nearly 2 years to finally get some zigzag lines outside one of the entries on there. We've also I would ask for the support of actually getting some kind of crossing over there because the amount of cars around Beaumont Primary School and that end of Dryclough Road it is needed because the parking is so bad. You then go and we talk about active travel, and I would say, looking at those schools, there are lots of reasons why it doesn't happen, and one of them, the children from sort of Thornton Lodge, the bottom end of Crossland Moor, that could actually come up Woodside Road, they've actually got to try and get across Park Road, and so I've recently requested if we could have a double a zebra crossing there, and I really would ask for the support of Cabinet over these measures. When we've actually put all of these in places, the one thing that is also lacking is actually enforcement. And I would echo again that we need to look at the actual parking enforcement. We're lucky that we have had the neighbourhood policing team come down for the obstructive parking. They do a lot of work within the ward, but we need regular enforcement of people that are parking on double yellow lines along Dryclough Road on the zigzag lines because they can't get any closer to the schools. Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Just say that Councillor Lise Hamilton was to speak before me and a button went off, so can she go first? Because that's it. That things that are fair. You're not fair. Okay, all right. I just wanted to be polite about it. It seemed right. I too knew Liz Twitchett, and I can't think of any other way now because it was so many years that I worked with her as Liz Twitchett. But having attended her funeral, I can tell you it was, anybody who wasn't there, it was heartbreaking. She's now the third officer whose funeral I've been to. The first was Darren Huntington, early 30s, wife, 2 children, very young children. Hayley Pickard, in her 40s, a housing officer, and all 3 of them unexpected, sudden illnesses that took them very quickly and very tragically, way before the time. And I lost my mum this year, and I found Lizzie's funeral every bit as upsetting, but for very different reasons. Road safety is quite apt today because I was driving past Gummersall Primary School, and there were 3 cars parked on double yellow lines, and the seesaws were out, which is great, but they can't ticket. So this particular school, I have done an immense amount of work over the years. And the annoying thing is this school has the most amazing pedestrian system there. It's a crossroads, it's a busy crossroads, but it's got pedestrian lights so people can cross safely. But what they choose to do is they park on the side of the road, chuck the kids out into the middle of the road. They park on double yellow lines, they park on zigzags. They go diagonally across the pedestrian crossing at Hilltop in Gummersall. It's the parents who are behaving so badly at the schools. And the problem is, I've done a lot of work with Karen North over the years with this one. If anybody knows Karen North, who works at Kirklees. We did a lot of schemes. We had, I did a lot with highways. We worked with to change the traffic loops, so pedestrians got priorities in the morning and the afternoon. We've got a slow down the school, one of those flashing signs. We put cones out to see whether it was safer, i.e. the road slower with cones out to block people parking on both sides of the road. And we had speed strips to see what happened to the traffic. It's actually safer if traffic is parking and causing an obstruction because it naturally slows down the cars because if they can all get through easily, they do it and they do it at speed. The 3 cars that were on the double yellow lines today, one of them moved off immediately because I was sat waiting at the lights on the side of the road. One moved off immediately, the other one got the photograph taken by the seesaw, and the other one just sat there and watched. Did not care. Couldn't have given a monkeys. My suggestion, the reason I've stood up, is the way you get them isn't by sending enforcement out in high-vis jackets, police uniforms. That's not how you stop this. You stop it with the vans. CCTV vans, driving past schools, on a regular basis, and I think if you've got 40 grand award, that's where I would spend my money if I got a choice. You catch them unawares, you publicise it. If they don't know they're coming, they will very quickly learn when they get a ticket that it's not the thing to do. Now, I know there will be some challenges with that because the council can only manage where we've put the markings on, but you will still get enough because people, taxis, I've seen all sorts of people parking on the zigzags. For me, if you're going to spend money on anything, do it covertly if you like. It's not because they're in a van, but they won't see them. They don't get a chance to move off. The minute they see, I've seen it, I've been out with highways officers, the minute they see somebody in a high-vis jacket, they drive off. You need to punish people for doing this that is endangering children's lives. And like David said, you know, we had a tragic accident on our ward, not far from a school as well. You know, it's literally down the bottom of the road where a school is. I urge everybody, let's do something collaboratively. If we've got a pot of money, let's get some vans, let's get them kitted out, outside all the schools on a regular basis and let people learn by being ticketed.
Councillor Scott. Am I the ultimate? Because if I am, I'll withdraw it. No? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Amanda, and I forgot his name. Tyler, I'm sorry, because I was at that one. Right, I do appreciate your presentation. It's a pity that we didn't have the slides beforehand, because I think it's a really important topic that we need to talk about across the wards. So whilst I welcome the inclusion of the road safety today on the agenda, I had to muster together something and try and guess what you were going to do about it. But I want to talk about Dewsbury and Batley, where we serve, and there's an urgency for a very real look into what's going on, because every week we hear from residents, and I'm sure it's across Kirklees, from schools and the community groups that are worried about speeding traffic. It's unsafe at crossings and there's dangerous junctions. We also know where the hotspots are, on the ring road in Dewsbury, where multiple serious and slight accidents have happened. This is also on Halifax Road, Bradford Road and at other junctions. Aldham's Road, where residents have reported near misses for years. That is a very dangerous spot. Roads around Batley West, there were pleas for crossings and speed bumps to be put outside schools, but they were being ignored for far too long. That issue is really prevalent now. It's happening all the time in that area. And let's not forget that just in this past year, that Operation Trimberg found that 2,000 road offences across Kirklees, including over 400 for speeding. 162 of them were mobile phone use while driving and 91 for careless driving. These are not minor issues, and they are things that are real dangers, not only to our communities but to our young people. Now, Community Alliance, our group, want to work across the council. There are things that we can do. We've drawn up a list here that we could feed into, because I think Councillor Holmes is right. It's across the borough that we can do this by working together. So you could do an audit on school safety zones across the borough, create a public speeding black spot action list. That's important. Launch a local road safety dashboard so the wider stats are known for everybody. Develop a North Kirklees, and if you want to use it in the south, we started it first, so for 2026 to 2030. I think that could be a tailored plan for every ward, because not every ward's the same. We need to expand the enforcement of West Yorkshire Police. It's about high visibility and partnership working. Councillor Hall also said that earlier, is about the partners coming on board with this. We need to support community-led walkability audits, and that's important because it empowers the community to be involved and know where the dangers are on the map, where they face, so that we can make it safer for them. So I think together we can identify improvements. But none of these ideas are unaffordable. None require national approval, just the need for a leadership in these projects. So, as I said, cross-party, I think you need to think about working with a cross-party working group, and we can all engage and put something into this. Councillor Lees Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Cooper, Road Traffic Collision, RTC. Councillor Hawkins, the Council, I'd like to address the role of 20 mile an hour in residential areas. It's been a subject I've been campaigning for a long time. Why is it this council insists that 20 mile an hour must be accompanied by engineering works? Other local authorities manage 20 mile an hour speed limits quite well, without any form of engineering works. Our neighbours in Calderdale do this. They do it well. The route from Murfield to Todmorden has many stretches of road that go 20, 30, 40, 50, 20. It slows people down. It has no engineering works. And it's very effective at reducing speeds and encouraging drivers to look at the road. Otherwise, they're going to end up with a speeding ticket. Again, I ask why. Why does this council not do the same? 50 years ago, our residential areas were possibly safe at 30 miles an hour. Traffic flow was light. Most families had one car and it went to work. The streets were clear and visible, and there were very few parked vehicles in those days. But now, most roads are lined with parked vehicles. Sight lines have gone. The visibility for both pedestrians and drivers has become greatly reduced in this day and age, and our young and elderly are the most vulnerable. Vehicle use has gone up exponentially. The days of quiet roads and streets is over. Brake supports 20 miles an hour. The Foundation for Integrated Transport supports it, and I'm sure Vision Zero does. The default 20 mile an hour in Wales now have solid data that it works, a 5-fold reduction in serious casualties. A road death is a terrible personal tragedy. It also comes with a financial cost to the authorities. That cost is £2.5 million per road death. Think of the road improvements we could make with that money and the lives that could be saved. 20 mile an hour streets cost very little to implement without the associated engineering works. With the insisted engineering works, they will likely never happen due to the costs. This should not be a barrier to reducing speed limits. I would wish to see 20 mile an hour speed limits outside every school in Kirklees. I'd like to see a default 20 miles an hour speed limit on all of Murfield's residential roads, side streets, lanes, avenues, crescents. It isn't just being over the speed limit that kills. It's the inappropriate use of speed. And there are an awful lot of drivers who still think the speed limit is a target. It's not. People should be driving at an appropriate speed and appropriate gear to the road and traffic conditions. And very often, drivers need a reminder. And one way to do it is let's get some 20 mile an hour default. Residential areas, town centres, parts of Huddersfield are 30 mile an hour. What would happen if somebody drove through Huddersfield at 30 miles an hour? We'd have a lot of casualties, but they wouldn't be speeding. It would be inappropriate speed. Let's get these drivers reminded, let's get them slowed down, get our schools protected, get 20 mile an hour outside hospitals, care homes. Let's look at protecting the young and the elderly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Mark Thompson.
Oh, God. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The word on road safety that's been mentioned a few times in the presentation was reference to how serious we are as far as road safety is concerned. But if the Council and the Cabinet are so hell-bent on being serious about road safety, I just want to ask a few questions. Why councillors over the last 4 years have had to pay for overtime for police to police antisocial driving. Also, why the road calmers, for instance, in East Bailey, were taken out of our ward funds to make sure that near the primary school and down the main road where there were several accidents over a short period of time had to be paid for by ward councillors. I'd like to know also why we're just negotiating for the rest of our ward funds in Birstall and Berkenshaw to go towards more overtime for police on an evening to tackle the antisocial driving that occurs every night on Dewsbury Road and Bradford Road through Birstall, up into Berkenshaw and right the way through to East Bailey. Reference to antisocial driving, I mean 70, 80 miles an hour on an evening, most evenings, cars overtaking not only other cars but islands in the middle of the road, going round the wrong way round a roundabout, racing all the way up to East Bailey and through into Bradford. I'm just curious why it always falls back on ward councillors to deal with major road safety in the local ward. The next point that I'd like to make is that road safety, I don't think, just ends with speeding vehicles, inappropriate driving. Also, what we have in the ward and in many other wards that I drive through is perhaps, you know as well as I do where they are, broken safety barriers in the central reservations of road and at the side of schools that don't seem, even though they're reported, to get fixed or repaired. Also, the traffic bollards, the reflective traffic bollards that I don't know who's in procurement here who procures these devices, but they are not fit for purpose. They become non-reflective over a very short period of time, and also they don't get cleaned when they are reflective. Road signs not clearly repaired. We've got a number of road signs that never get repaired, others that are broken, and the rest of them that are near trees are just covered in so much dirt that they can't be seen. So road safety is a multitude of things, not just about speeding vehicles or not wearing seatbelts. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that lining either double yellow lines or other lines to restrict people from parking in inappropriate places, not getting done every year. I think somebody mentioned that they do get replaced if they're worn or they're in a place near a school. I can tell you I live facing BBG school, and the white lines and the yellow lines are not repaired. There's a lot of damage, disappearing lines, double yellow lines down roads that are ignored, which then brings me on to enforcement that nearly everybody that's spoken tonight has mentioned about the lack of enforcement. The lack of enforcement by parents parking inappropriate outside schools, parking down private drives and private roads, that causes a problem as far as vision's concerned from traffic moving down these roads and also blocking the traffic for buses. We're talking about public transport being better. We're in the midst of one of our bus routes being cancelled because there is no enforcement down that road to stop people parking at the bus stop, both sides of the road, and creating hellish nightmares outside schools, especially at Windmill and Batley Girls. Maybe what we should be looking at is a joined-up venture with things like school admissions. Why is there so many cars outside schools? Maybe it's because our school's admission process isn't appropriate. Maybe we should look in at a smaller catchment area on schools so it's more appropriate for children to walk to school. Maybe we should be joining up with the police and finding out what their solutions are, as long as, and also with our...
Can you wind up, please?
Yes, okay, Mayor. And also traffic wardens being at the right places at the right times. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Darwin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that Thank you. I just want to say when I asked my question, I wasn't trying to blame the congestion on Kirklees Council. I thought it was more to do with the railway network. That's why I used it then. So now I'm going to go on to the traffic highways. First of all, I welcome the greater need for enforcements. There are many abandoned vehicles where illegal activities are being carried out from. I believe that Bradford Council successfully trialled mobile enforcement vans outside schools, which led to improved compliance and safer conditions. Kirklees could do the same. We need more speed cameras on Savile Road and traffic calming on Brewery Lane in Dewsbury South. And at the moment, in Dewsbury South, there is significant damage to local roads caused by the constant presence of extremely heavy goods vehicle. And we'd like to know who's going to be responsible for rebuilding those roads, and when will the worn markings be repainted, particularly on roundabouts and key junctions. What is the timescale for cleaning and monitoring road signs across the board? Why are damaged or missing safety signs on islands not being replaced promptly after reports are made? What monitoring and accountability processes are in place to ensure routine road safety standards are being upheld in the Dewsbury ward? What measures are being put in place both now and in the future to prevent residents being subjected to the horrific level of disruption? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It would be remiss of me in a key discussion on road safety to not draw attention to an age-old road safety issue in my ward when the opportunity arises. The small roads running through Magdale, including Magdale Lane, Sandbeds and Whitegate, are essential routes for local residents, particularly school children, commuting both on foot and in their parents' cars from Netherton to Honley High School. However, these roads are narrow, pathless, littered with blind corners and are becoming increasingly unsafe due to the volume and size of traffic using them. There is a 3-ton weight restriction at either end, at Huddersfield Road and at Netherton, as well as signs at either end of the road stating the road is impassable by large vehicles. Unfortunately, these restrictions are regularly ignored, with larger vehicles, including HGVs, continuing to use these roads despite the warnings. Local residents regularly submit photos of these violations to a Facebook group, even though we tell them to report it to the police, highlighting the ongoing disregard for these restrictions. These vehicles often have to reverse back along a narrow section of road, which continually leads to damage to parked cars, nearby houses and walls. This not only presents a significant safety risk, but also contributes to costly property damage. This is particularly concerning given the volume of pedestrians, especially school children, who use these routes daily. The recent development of the Castle View housing estate opposite Hinchliffe Farm has further increased traffic volume, adding to the strain on an already restricted infrastructure. While there is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in place on both parts of the Rat Run, the combination of large vehicles using these narrow roads and the lack of pedestrian infrastructure makes them dangerous and unsuitable for current traffic levels. I echo what Councillor David Hall said earlier, that it is crucial that enforcement of existing restrictions is prioritised. The current lack of enforcement undermines the effectiveness of the weight restrictions, vehicle size restrictions and speed limits. It poses a significant safety risk to both pedestrians and residents. I, along with numerous vocal residents, strongly urge Kirklees Council to take immediate and decisive action, working alongside West Yorkshire Police to enforce these restrictions and ensure that large vehicles do not continue to flout the rules. We also call for additional traffic management measures, including better signage and more rigorous monitoring to ensure the safety of all road users, particularly vulnerable pedestrians and school children. I would like to see Kirklees Council take swift action to address these ongoing issues and protect this community in Home Valley North. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Richard Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's so much I could say on this. I don't really know where to start. I mean, this has been a good debate, actually, and there's so much of what has been said in here tonight that I agree with. So I'll try and pick out a few bits. So I totally agree that poor driving is an issue, and several people have mentioned this. I probably feel like I almost ought to make a confession. I haven't always been the slowest driver in the world. When I was a young man, I was probably given to, several of my colleagues have mentioned boy races. I wouldn't say I was that bad, but I think I can understand where the attraction comes from for young men, and I've always loved vehicles. So, you know, I'm not going to claim to be a saint in all this as well. So I think one thing that we need to be really clear about here is that one size doesn't fit all. So I'm going to dash around a little bit some of the things I've written on here. Councillor Cooper made a really good point earlier about calling things accidents or crashes, and my background is working in hospitals, and it's a long time since we stopped calling things road traffic accidents, because you know there is all the implications that Andrew mentioned about blame and preventability and all that stuff, and I think that's a really important point, actually. If we start looking at something as a preventable incident and something that people can be held accountable for, and it's not really about blaming after the event, it's more about educating people about the consequences and therefore preventing future reoccurrence of that. I think another important thing that's been touched upon here as well, we all know where these so-called black spots are within our wards. So there's quite a few in my ward. Unfortunately, within my ward, there's been several, I'm not sure of the exact number, over the last 5 years, very serious incidents which have led to fatalities. And I have to say they've all had one thing in common, and that has been very poor driving. And I am not going to stand here and try and make light of a family's devastating loss by suggesting that, you know, somebody was responsible for their own accident, etc. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that in some instances we've seen after the event where people have been driving, you know, whilst very intoxicated through drink and drugs at ridiculous speeds. And I mentioned earlier that I wasn't an angel when I was 17, 18, and I'm going to hold my hands up. But I never drove past a school at 40 miles an hour with double parked cars. You know, I used to have my bit of fun in the moors where the only thing I was going to damage was me or a sheep. So that is a different thing. And I'm not suggesting that, you know, I'm not making light of this at all. But the idea that we can just blanket talk about speeding as an issue in isolation, I don't agree with. And I don't agree with the discussion about everywhere being 20-mile-an-hour zones, because I think that when you do that, you lead to poor behaviour. There are places where I believe 20 miles an hour is too fast, and I've mentioned schools, and I definitely agree with 20-mile-an-hour zones in principle, but they have to be in the right place. There's absolutely no point in putting draconian measures in place that frustrate drivers. The other thing that's been discussed as well is about highway spending. I completely agree with Councillor Greaves on this one. So we're not in a position, through the funds that we have made available to us, to address some of these large issues that we're talking about here. I have seen quite a lot of investments in highways across my patch and neighbouring patches that have not really done anything, in my opinion, to improve junctions. There's been a lot of money spent making pavements that were already suitable 13, 14 foot wider than they need to be, so there's no opportunity for a car turning left to filter, and at least to frustration, at least to bad driving, at least to people mounting the pavement and doing silly things. Yes, it's their fault, they shouldn't do it. But why are we closing off a perfectly good junction that's room for two cars to go left and right at the same time as each other, and preventing them from doing that, spending loads of money in the process, making the thing worse? So one of the reasons we have the problem with speeding and poor driving is because people get frustrated. And we're seeming to do things that make people more frustrated. And I don't agree with that at all. So I used to ride my motorbike through central London.
Councillor Smith,
I'll wrap up.
Very
I will wrap up.
But you need to wrap up.
Sorry. And one thing I will just say is, when I used to drive through a line of traffic, I used to regularly smell people smoking drugs. Now, that's a big issue, and that's a police issue. I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the disadvantages of speaking quite late in the debate is you sit there crossing off the points that you were going to make, already been made by other members. Clearly, road safety is an issue that is important to me and is one that, as other members have said, is raised on an almost daily basis. I have the joy of representing quite a large geographic ward with a lot of minor roads, and often they're the ones that get neglected. They don't get the same level of attention, maintenance or support that you get from your major A and B roads. And that they also tend to be in areas where you will have national speed limit and cars going at speed. But a number of points I did want to raise, and one is about maintenance. This council doesn't take the maintenance of the assets we've got anyway seriously enough, and particularly from a road safety point of view. Representing a ward where you've got a lot of small villages, people trying to get from one village to the next, pedestrians, you find that you can't walk on the pavements anymore because they've never been swept, they've never had the vegetation cut back, and they're literally, you're expected to walk on the road. And when I've raised with officers about, can I get this pavement cleared, example being Barnsley Road up in Flockton or Liley Lane in Grangemore, I'm told that council officers can't do it because the road's too dangerous. But it's okay for residents to push their pram along on the road because they can't get on the pavement. It's too dangerous for officers to tackle. So one thing we need to think about is, do we take maintenance seriously enough? Do we provide sufficient funding? Every year I've been on this council, my group has moved amendments for budgets which would have increased the funding going into highways, and every year bar this year, that's been turned down. So we've tried, and we will continue to try. There's also a lack of white lining. There was a mention about the small schemes that are done in the more rural areas. Yes, they do. But I could walk you around anywhere in my ward where you'll see the white lining has disappeared and the junctions. And I think my colleague mentioned one of those in Shelley that is particularly dangerous, but it's everywhere. Because again, that maintenance isn't done. We don't go back. There's also a lack of adequate enforcement. Again, we don't have sufficient staff to do that enforcement. And that is both our own staff and those of the police. And we need to address that. And we need to look seriously about, if we're serious about Vision Zero, we need to put the powers behind that in terms of enforcement. I think everybody's talked about locations in their wards, and I can probably, if I get time, I'll mention a few of mine as well. One of the things that I've been a huge advocate of is place standard. Place standard gives us data. Place standard gives us real-time information from residents about what concerns they have, what worries they have. And when it comes to road safety, it isn't just speeding traffic. It's also some of the roads in rural areas where they've never cut back the vegetation. So the street lights, you can virtually not see them because they're covered by vegetation at this time of year. But place standard also used to come with a small amount of funding, and I use that to get more speed indicator devices in my ward. So we now have 6 speed indicator devices in my ward. Very valuable source of funding, and it was responding to specific needs raised by residents in those villages. So we need to look about, if we're serious about place standard, both the data it provides us with, but then the support we provide to communities on the back of undertaking those place standard events. There's also a question about where is the West Yorkshire Mayor's commitment in all of this? And I say that, I know net zero is one of her priorities, but it doesn't seem to be backed up with action. I find it really strange that as ward councillors, and a number of members have mentioned it tonight, we're expected to spend chunks of the very small amount of money we get as a ward budget to get some police enforcement done. Well, isn't there a police and crime precept? Doesn't West Yorkshire have a budget for policing? And why isn't that being used to tackle some of these issues? Why are they coming to us? They've come to us recently to say the speed camera that they use is broken. Can we fund a new one, please, out of our ward budgets? You've got to question, is the West Yorkshire Mayor serious about this? Because if she was, she'd make sure this issue was adequately funded. I don't know where the policing budget goes. I don't know who sits on the Police and Crime Authority. You want me to wind up? Okay. My final one, 12 months ago, this next month, was an agreement to do a road safety audit at Barnsley Road. Still hasn't been done. Only this week, we've had a tractor take out the chicane at the start of Flockton as you come in from Grangemore. Couple of months ago, at roughly the same location on the other side of the road, they took out a retaining wall, car took out a retaining wall and landed in the garden that is below the level of the road. You know, the issues, and I'm feeding them into highways every time they come through, these issues are clear and they are there. I keep asking for action, but nothing happens. I'll end there, ma'am, before you tell me off.
Because I was asking for action. Councillor O'Donovan.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I know this is kind of like the twilight shift of speaking, isn't it? And I noticed a little smile from Councillor Ahmed. Thank you for squeezing me in, because I just have to challenge. So I know I've been around a while, but I have to challenge some of what's been said, particularly by Councillor Taylor there about commitment. About 2 years ago, we had a motion tabled that never made it to debate by the Conservative group around road safety. And in 2 years, that motion never made it back. So I would want to suggest and question the Conservative group's commitment to the debate around road safety. Why did that debate not come forward? Why did you not bring that motion forward? Why did you shelve it when you could have brought it forward? We could have had that debate a long time ago. Obviously, On some levels, I totally get it. I think it's completely genuine to say that every single person in this room has a commitment and wants to see the best in terms of road safety in their ward. I don't think I could say that about every issue the council faces, but in terms of road safety, I honestly believe that. But clearly, it would not be practical, and this is where we have to be, not mislead the public unnecessarily, that if councils were given the freedom to install and negotiate road safety measures in their ward, it would be chaotic. And what it would lead to officers drawing up criteria to help us make decisions about where the funding went to install those road safety measures. And the public need to understand that. And they need to understand that from us. We can't gaslight the public to tell them that we have some ability, some secret method, a secret committee that allows us the power to make some of these decisions. It's just not true. We can't do that. The public want us to use fairness. They want value for money on decisions that are made. They don't want people making decisions on the basis of who shouts the loudest. And that's what would happen if we went down that route. It's been 15 years, but I have to remind people, when we talk about people's commitment and funding for this and funding for that, but we have to remember that within the first months of the Conservative and Lib Dem government in 2010, they cut the road safety revenue grant by 27% within months of coming into government. On top of that, they cut our grant, our services grant here as well. On top of that, they completely abolished the 17.2 million road safety capital grant. So 3 areas there that we still completely feel the effects from. None of that's been reinstated yet. We've had 14 years of that growing chasm because 3 of the main budgets that we use to fund road safety initiatives were cut by Liberal Democrats and by Conservatives in 2010, within months of being in government. They cut the Department for Transport Road Safety Research initiatives. They cut the Think campaign funding from 12 million down to 7 million. And as well as that, we remember that there's a 25% reduction in police traffic officers between 2010 and 2014. I'm trying to get a lot out there because we've heard a lot, and not all of it's some of it is misrepresentation of the facts, really. We do the best we can with the budget that we have. When you read the papers from the medium-term financial plan, you see that the budget gap in adult social care beyond the life of the 5-year medium-term financial plan is over £90 million. We've got to start being realistic with the public about where we need to spend our money. We really do. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Having pressed my button about an hour and 3/4 ago, just after the presenters, I was going to send out for a bigger screen because my name kept going down and down as the Deputy Mayor kept rejigging the speakers list. We've had a fairly good debate, apart from Darren. And to whom I would say, Darren, if you're serious about road safety and you're serious about your ward, work with the Murfield ward members to help address some of the issues coming out of the grand banqueting suite in your ward, which come around Murfield, where we get complaints about speeding cars, people illegally stopping traffic to let them out, and obviously fireworks that go off. But it's been good to discuss and highlight concerns. Members have passed on their experiences from themselves and residents. But the key question after all this, Madam Mayor, is what is the council going to do? What's going to happen to all the suggestions, questions and everything? The key discussion needs to have outcomes on which this council and the administration can be held to account and which our communities can see timelines for resolution of concern. Otherwise, we've spent 2 hours talking, and as it's been said of many committees take minutes but lose hours. One of the speakers mentioned partnerships. Well, I'd like to invite the Cabinet to work in partnership with Murfield Town Council. Vivian and I took a proposal to the Town Council and established the first Road Safety Committee back in Kirklees. We used to have many across the district, but they lapsed. We've established one in Murfield, which has seen £60,000 of Town Council money pledged to support road safety. So I'd like to ask the leader if she will commit to officer support to help us deliver the objectives, which are Operation Trimberg, addressing issues around schools, seeing more lining and signing, and more road safety, and as Vivian has mentioned, 20 is plenty. So a question there, can we have support from Kirklees for this partnership? I mentioned earlier about planning issues, and sadly for this council, there's been many years of failure to deliver on road safety and associated schemes in Mirfield resulting from developments. The purpose of Section 106 and other measures is to mitigate the impact of developments. So over a decade after Mirfield 25 and others were started, where is the mitigation? We've got the impact, we've got the increased traffic, but we're not seeing the mitigation. We've seen issues, people have talked about schools. I was proud to be a member of the Conservative Cabinet, which delivered a safe route to school from Rawfolds in Cleckheaton through to Heckmondwike. Councillor Hall took over from me as the Highways Cabinet member and had to learn to ride a bike to deliver it. So there was some success of that. What we're seeing also from development is, again, from the Taylor Wimpey site in Mirfield, money was taken from there, from the developer, to put into a play area on the London Park estate, the pedestrian access to which, down Taylor Hall Lane, is impassable for pedestrians. That Taylor Hall Lane is also the pedestrian access to Old Bank School and Mirfield Free Grammar. This now means that pupils and students have to walk around the A62 to get to those schools. So where are the safe routes to school? Officers allow developers from the same development to remove the safer shared use active travel facilities, thus forcing vulnerable users and students from Robertstown, Liversedge and Norristhorpe, who will go to Mirfield Free Grammar, onto the A62. Interesting, when we talk about active travel, we are the only Metro Mayor area where the Mayor has not appointed an active travel commissioner. Interestingly, a Kirklees resident, Ed Clancy, gold medalist in the Olympics, is now the active travel commissioner in South Yorkshire. Road safety measures used to be said by highways officers to be education, enforcement and engineering. The latter two are a point of debate between the police and highways engineers. The police tell you to put engineering first, and highways officers say, let's have enforcement first. So can we get some...
Summarise up.
Yep. So can we get some resolution for this? Will the leader commit to change the culture in Kirklees where road safety issues are not proactive? Over a decade ago, I brought to officers material from the Department of Transport produced Think Road Safety campaign. These are a number of images. Those have never appeared on Kirklees street furniture, but they appear on others.
Thank you. Okay, so we're now, that is the last speaker. So we are now going to move quickly back to item 11, the mass transit. And Councillor Crook, can you quickly sum up so we can go to the vote, please? All right, so we'll move to the vote on item 11, the mass transit spatial development framework. We'll use the consoles, please. Has everybody voted who wishes to vote? Yes? I think the motion is carried. Thank you. And that is 9 o'clock. Thank you.
All rise.